We had the results of the LRP streaming poll finalized yesterday. So the links to that are posted in Newsbus and on the forums. You should take a look at it if you care at all about streaming on LRP.
Anyways, I guess we'll just start taking people. Yeah, admins, are you able to like raise your hand? I saw Fiku was able to do that. Um, but yeah, just order in which they come. So I suppose we'll get started with France Gamer. Okay. Hello?
Hey guys, uh,
So did you have a
I
question?
have
Yeah, I
nothing
should
to
put.
say. Honestly,
That's
I
fair.
I was I was gonna like while somebody else was called up, like find out,
Before.
remember the exact line that one guy said at the Game Awards, and then say that and then leave.
Oh,
But
the Bill
I didn't have time
Clinton
to
is
do
a
that because he
rabbi.
called me first. So I'd just like to. I mean, I would say something obscene, but I don't really have any reason to.
That's fine. I have like my
All right,
finger over the timeout button anyway, so it's okay.
all right.
Okay.
Good job so
I'm just
far.
gonna I'm just gonna
Your
use
server's
you
all
as an
right.
example. Just like have something in mind before you come up. I don't mind speaking to people, but also just everyone.
I suppose we'll just say it for the people who haven't attended a meeting before. If you've got anything you want to say, ask, bring up, just put your hand up in the request to speak queue. Have your question / concern you want to talk about written down before you come up so you don't forget it because a lot of people. And then just we'll bring people up in order and they can say or ask whatever they want.
All right.
Okay. Who's next? Lucky on Zach. Alright. Hello?
Right. Is this working?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
All right. Very good. So, I've actually never been to one of these community meetings. I have been to the third coder bus. So,
Yes.
excuse me if I'm started a bit or something.
That's
But
okay.
I do have a. I quickly wrote down a question that I quickly came up with. Well, I was waiting on the queue. So,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask this, but okay, so when considering which feature PRs pull requests you want to merge, how much those the Manuel server and MRP in general weigh into your opinion and consideration of merging said feature?
It's completely unrelated.
We
It's
have
a
no
code
direct
based
say
concern.
over. We have no
Oh,
direct say over the code base and what they choose to merge or not merge,
fair
other than
enough.
We
our
can
role as key holders for test merges.
we can like if they put a config thing in their PR, like it's a PR that requires to be configurable, we can like disable that feature or disable some aspect of that feature that they did allow to be exposed to the config for Manuel if we determine it to be appropriate. But otherwise, we have absolutely no say over what enters the code base or what doesn't.
Sometimes
At
they'll
least in
like
our
ask
capacity as
us.
admins.
Yeah, they'll like ask us out of respect or because like they think policy's going to be involved in it, but we have like no actual like hard power on any of it. So we don't really have too much to say on it.
Right. I'm sorry, you can tell I've never been to one of these when I ask a question that belongs more so in the coder bus.
It's
It
okay.
Yeah,
It
happens.
happens.
that's the thing. We're a little bit more boring than the coder bus meetings because policy is a little bit more boring. Well, it's important, but it's more boring. It's like
I mean, it
fighting.
happens in the coder meeting too. There's always a policy question in code meeting.
That's real. All right. Yeah. Okay. I did that.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else you want to
Anyways.
ask
Yeah.
before we move on to the next
Uh,
person?
Actually, yeah.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
you've got one more question. Go, go, go.
I was just wondering. Oh, damn it! It escaped my mind. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh,
If you want to re-queue and like if you come up with it, you can ask it
yeah,
later.
yeah, I'll do
Yep.
that.
Okay. Sounds good. I hit the button. Okay. I can't see It sucks because I can't like add people to the queue and then look in the text channel. I think I'll figure it out though.
You
Anyways,
can pop it out.
I know what you mean now. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
All right, next up is Daka. Hello.
What's up, you degenerates?
True.
I wanted to say out loud before I go to work, if we hit that 6,000 goal on the event, I'll donate $1,111.11.
That's very nice of you to do
Very
that
kind.
for charity.
Wow.
All
This
right,
is
now
being
to
recorded.
call the
We have
bomb
you
threat on
record.
everybody. See
Yeah,
ya.
but you can't duck out now. All right, that was very kind of Daka to say that. Donate to the Toolbox tournament, and he will match that donation to the amount he said. I already forgot the amount. All right, who's next? Hello, MGO.
Hi there. I really just wanted to come on here to ask a few things. I'm not sure this is more appropriate for the code webs here, but how do you feel about the general state of chemistry within the game?
It sucks, but it's also a code problem.
Yeah.
I mean, we
because-
can regulate player interactions with chemistry, like we can regulate that, but there's like there's no good place to start, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because
No.
I wanted to say the way it is now, it heavily encourages people to just make a shit ton of medicines at once and try to hoard them as many as possible, making bath salts in like 10 minutes or like making inverse reagents that freeze people. It's pretty nuts. I just wanted to ask how willing the community would be to having chemistry PRs to expand the field, such as in creating more inverse reagents, for example.
That's still a code question.
That's a code question.
That sounds
Yeah,
like
man,
have
I
no
knew it. I
say
knew
over
it.
it.
All right,
but
no problem, no
we
problem.
can't do anything
The
about it.
community would probably love it, but you got to talk to the maintainers about that.
Yeah,
it's-
you're right.
Yeah, like
We're
so
in the
basically.
area.
Because I'm not asking about the code aspect more so, I'm just worried about community response to it.
Community response to any PR is a 50-50 coin flip on whether they'll like it or not.
Yeah,
Alright, well.
the community is giving their opinion on it in the text channel right now, if you're curious. But and they're saying wrap it up.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Farewell.
All right. Yeah, a better way to phrase those sorts of questions is like, if you want to talk about a code feature, try and apply it to like how we can influence it, because we can do stuff. But like, so if you want to phrase like that question that you just said, how do you feel about chemistry? Phrase it in a way that we can answer it. Like, how do you feel about like players interacting with chemistry? Do you want to regulate that by rules or policy somehow? That way we can actually do something with it rather than just immediately dismiss
A
you.
question to give an example. A question about potentially stopping chemists from making bath salts for 10 minutes at round start and doing nothing else is potentially policy. Whether Fermichem's interaction with how you make bath salts for 10 minutes is something we like, not something we can touch on. Also, if anyone says anything about forking, I'm instantly timing you out.
That's real. Orange is your third. You can wait. All right. Up next we have Game Admin Pumpkin. What? Hello.
Hi there. My microphone's a little crap, so you'll forgive me for that.
We can understand you, so it's okay.
Yeah, so I have a big question. I've been wondering for a while. I asked a few questions, like around to other admins, and I didn't really get a concise answer. But I'm curious, do admins have any bearing on how antagonists are added or how they're like influenced by the code at all? I know this is a code question, but it's been really
Yeah.
gnawing at me because that's also kind of a policy thing with how you deal with an antagonist.
I will say here, this isn't technically fully a code question because
That's
Mothblock
the thing.
especially is very pro having us at least be like involved in the ground level for making new antags, so that especially antags that have potential policy implications
Which
at least have their policy thought about before they get implemented. Especially the recent antag proposal for the mirror demon antag thing that replaced someone. We were pinged into that very early on for like, do you guys hate this? Is it going to be a policy nightmare if it's merged? And are you fine with it? Can you just have some policy like sitting around if necessary?
Yeah.
So,
Another thing. Oh, sorry. You keep going. I have something to add on top of that.
yeah, so There is some degree, but that's because Mothblocks especially is personally very invested in having there be policy for new antags. It's not like a encoded thing, and we don't have veto rights or anything. If that's what you mean.
Actually, we do technically have veto rights on antagonists because the thing is that antagonists must be in config. So
Well, they must
we
be
can
in
just
dynamic, which is in config.
they
Yeah.
must be in dynamic, and that's a config. I'm pretty sure you can config certain aspects of it. The question that you asked was, do game admins have any bearing on it? And the answer to that is as much as game admins have bearing on headmins in general.
I
guess.
think I asked if Edmund's good.
Oh, you did? Oh,
I
sorry, I
meant-
misheard you.
Well,
You
yeah,
said
that's.
both, so
I
it
meant
is
Headmans.
both.
The thing is, I really do think that Headmans should have the say in whether or not an antagonist gets added because of how that, inflicts
that's-
the policy and everything.
Yeah, that's the config. The config's like the sort of hard stop where we say like, we don't have like the policy for this, like the team isn't interested in like handling tickets involving this antag because of like the lack of like clear and easy kind of like boundaries, which we all kind of need if we're gonna have these simultaneous like 70 people games where we all understand like what to expect from the villain.
Sweet.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to get the next person up on stage.
Goodbye, my friends.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
All right, next up we have Oranges. Oranges, you said you had a real question, so I'm excited to hear it.
Hello. My question is about admin training, actually. So for people who don't know, the way that admin training works right now is that people put forward admins, or they apply in the forum, and then an admin trainer has to agree to take them on for training, and then the head admins have to sign off on the admin candidate. My question is, are you happy with this process? Do you think that it is effective? Do you think that maybe there's too much bureaucracy involved? And I know that people are concerned that there are too many, well, I don't want to say it like that. They're concerned that a lot of the admins who get trained currently are manual admins, and there doesn't seem to be as many trained for the other servers. So I was just wondering if you have comments on those things.
To answer the first, sorry.
I think it's like pretty well known at this point that we've kind of got a glut of Manuel admins, and to that extent, we're apprehensive about taking on new hires. In my experience, it's largely just been what people bring forward, or who people bring forward, and then general community response to them. So aside from maybe how many active admins do we have on a server looking for people, it's mostly just been like either people have some things that they need to work on before they can join the team, or they're perfect and we ask them and they're too sane to say yes. So it's not for like a lack of trying necessarily, and that's my take on it.
There's a lot of instances where people are like, you should get more admins. Here's a bunch of lists of people we think would make good admins, and half the people on that list have previously been asked if they want to be admins and said no. As for the effectiveness of the process, I think it's very effective at producing high quality admins. Whether the big problem with it is that it can lead to issues where there's not enough admin trainers or not enough admin trainers who want to handle specific servers. That's one of the issues we have. Like compared to Manuel, we have a lot of active admin trainers for Manuel that are really happy to pick up candidates, and then we have not as many active admin trainers for the other servers, especially Sybil recently, which lies into we don't have enough good candidates, we don't have enough good admin trainers, so the people we get are good, but we don't get enough people.
And circling back to your first point, Oranges, as far as like the bureaucracy, I don't really see it as being that much of bureaucracy because I think it's always been this way as far as like how admin trainers would solicit to the head. Well, before it was like headmans would like train admins, and then they change it to like admin trainers would bring them up. And right now, it's just like there's threads right now which are nice, and like whenever I see them, I read through them whenever I have a moment. I don't really see it as like something that needs to be divested per se. Like the thing is that there's a few instances where it's like you sort of read a name and you're like, you know, you got elected, so you kind of want to do something about that name that comes across your desk or that person's behavior that comes across your desk because you were put into that position for a reason, and I don't really want to divest that for an innumerable number of reasons or innumerable number of potential scenarios. Did you have anything else, Oranges? Or
No,
Oranges?
I think that covers everything.
Okay. All right. I'm going to get the next person on. Next person up is Gamer again.
All right, what's your
Did
stance on
you-
adding more sick ass tunes to the start of the round, like
Oh,
the pre-round, like lobby, I guess, whatever it's called.
key holders have just sort of done that. I don't know if any term has ever been asked. So yeah, I don't know. Just if you know a key holder and you're like, the concern for me is like copyright, but I don't know too much about how all of that could potentially work.
I have a
So,
confession. I have my lobby music turned off since 2 months after I started playing SS13, so I haven't noticed.
Yeah, I remember what happened is that to the code base I made a PR that turned off lobby music unless you explicitly enabled it in config, and it was off on all TG Station servers for like 2 months because I never told anyone. Well, I mean MSO knew, but no one else did. But the thing is that what happened, I think it was one of the key holders that just like added a bunch of OGGs and flipped the flag. I don't know if they ever asked about it because I wasn't key holder then. I mean, they could add it. I didn't sabotage the game. They knew. Mothblocks merged it. Anyways. But yeah.
So it's basically a situation of nobody really cares that much. So if somebody adds a song and it's not like horribly awful or copyright ridden, nobody really cares.
I think there's like one song that I've always been concerned about. I think it's a really popular artist, and there are songs in the lobby music, and I just sort of like, I don't know. It's still there because I haven't done anything about it. But whenever I hear it again, I'm just like, eh. So I don't really know, to be honest. Anything else?
Nah, that was the main thing I was really asking about.
Okay.
As Paddle
sounds good.
mentions, if it becomes a problem, just open a complaint against either the key holders or just in the community and say this is getting really annoying, and we can tell key holders to knock it off. But
yeah,
I'm personally
but-
never going to notice because I have my lobby music turned off on every server. So
Yeah, we could disable lobby music in the config because I made it a config for reasons, I guess.
Spirit back.
It was done for more of it was done for more like code based testing, like spinning up local servers. I think, but I don't know. I guess we could shuffle. It just depends on who does it. I'm gonna get the next person on. All right, next up is Cave Hermit. Hello, Cave Hermit.
Hi. This thing on?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Right. So I've been doing some thinking. I've got a few ideas to improve the code base. Let's see. My notes are. Oh, here they are. One. The clown needs to be louder, angrier, and have access to a time machine. Two. Whenever the clown is not on screen, all other crewmates should automatically say over comms, "Where's the clown?" Third, what are the admins and codebase codebase people's thoughts on like some kind of meta progression element?
That's a copy paste. That was a code base. All right, we talk to maintainers about that one.
Or don't, please.
Yeah, it depends on who wants to listen. Anyways, next up we have Lucky Onzek.
Hello there.
Logan.
Thank you for bringing me up to the stage again. I'm going to ask yet another code question. No, I'm just kidding.
Are you joking? Okay, that's fine. Jokes are funny.
Do you think that how much knowledge an admin candidate has over the Dreammaker language should influence their ability to actually become an administrator?
I think that it's a plus if you can code in DM to becoming an admin. Being able to fix problems on the fly is always helpful. There's a reason that maintainers that want to become admins tend to have a very, very easy time of it, both because they've already got some degree of implied authority over the code base.
A 3 maintainer headman term. Like,
but
you know,
I don't think it's a requirement. Like, it helps.
It should.
If it
We
was
go
a
through
requirement,
like
I'd be gone instantly.
we require usage of view variables. That is a key point in admin training. Like as far as interfacing with the code, like in the game, like knowing how to do view variables and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And like if they have any esoteric code questions, they can always ask in Coding General, or if it's like something actively is going wrong with the code, they're able to reach out to maintainers who have access to Admin Bus.
Yeah.
And
It helps.
those-
If you can code, you can solve a lot more problems on your own, but you don't need to be able to. Everything we need admins to be able to do with regards to DM, VV, and all that things, that we teach in admin training, or we just kind of accept people will pick up on the job. So it's not a requirement, but it does help your case. And I mean, we get funny shit out of people not knowing what they're doing. Like that time manual exploded, and no one knows why. It's a complete mystery.
I see. Would I have time for one more question?
Sure.
I guess.
So, what actually made you interested in running for head admin?
The previous 3 headmans decided it would be a good idea, and no one had the opportunity or power to gainsay them.
I just thought it'd be sort of fun.
I enjoy giving back to the community, and it seemed like it would be a pretty good idea to have me around for another 6 months, and I had the energy to do it, so here I am.
All right.
All right.
Very well.
That was your question, and we'll get some more people up on stage.
All right. See ya.
Ha 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 ha. All right, we'll get Time Green on stage. One of the newer maintainers. Hello, Time Green. Oh, are you just gonna like paste your? Oh no, never mind.
No. I'm not gonna paste anything. Don't know what I would paste. One thing I've been kind of struggling with a while is the emergency shuttle calls. A lot of stuff on Terry, for example, at like 30 minutes, a lot of times the shuttle will be rush called for no reason and end the shuttle early or end the game early, so people can reroll end tag. Can anything be done about it? Maybe make a policy to not pointlessly call the shuttle early to get end tag rolls.
I don't think it's so much an antag rolling thing as much as it is people are tired of a shift. The thing is that if you explicitly put into shuttle call reason, I want to antag roll, then yeah, you're gonna get banned for that or noted, or administrative action will be taken. There should be.
In general, have the power to interact at their discretion with what they perceive as bad shuttle call reasons, all the way through from haha, let's leave, just being a bad one, to literally I've seen people say it, all the bad men are dead, as yeah, we know what you're doing. But we're loath to take a direct, like, thou must wait an hour before calling the shuttle. It's a general, like, this must always happen in rounds.
Okay. Oh.
If it became completely endemic, like someone had the logs of his shuttles where like nothing happened for 30 minutes and then people call and they're really obviously just anti rolling at the same people, that could potentially be its own problem. I'd
Is
look at
that
logs if they
yeah.
were provided to me for that, but not so much like shuttle calls at 30 minutes. If people are fine with that, people are fine with that. More than, again, I don't really want to ever say to a server, thou must wait 60 minutes before you call the shuttle, even if like half the server's dead, done, not having fun anymore.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I wasn't talking about I was talking about peaceful rounds like the earlier stated, like 30 minutes, nothing happens. And people call it just because, haha, let's go. But
One thing I would say in cases like that, if it's the same people, keep an eye on it and then help those people. Because if it's the same person who always calls the shuttle 30 minutes in on relatively peaceful shifts, then that might be a case for like long-term antag rolling. Not so much because they called the shuttle at 30 minutes, but because every time they're given the opportunity, they force the round to restart so that they can have another go.
yeah, okay, fair enough.
You can see it in the
Thank you.
logs, can't you, Nameless? The pass logs, as well as
So it says the location.
yeah.
Well, then they can help it, the player.
Yeah,
know.
that's another thing. Like most cases, if you help something like that, nothing's going to happen. But if you think it keeps happening, then you can just help. Say, this happens a lot. I understand it's not much may come of it, but can you have a look? And admins can look, and if it's the same person as it's been the last 5 times, they can say, "Hey, buddy, it's getting a bit weird. Please cut it out."
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Or wait, I have to ask a question for Fiku.
Okay, what's?
No, wait, for
It seems to be quite recursive.
Tettle. No, fuck.
Yeah, it's a recursive scenario. You're never going to
You're stuck.
I'm not,
get out of
You
that.
can't
Yeah.
leave.
Please take me off the
Do you have
stage.
anything of your own, or is that about it for you?
What are maintainers allowed to do on a server?
Whatever you
And no.
Okay.
you have for you
alright,
have
thank
fun.
you. Yeah.
No,
Alright.
Rule number
no,
one:
that's not
have
how it
fun.
works. That's not how it works. If this,
I mean, if you
No, I'm taking it. I'm taking it. I recorded it. I can do whatever I want.
if
Yeah.
you abuse it, you can be banned by an admin. But
and if I have
other
to
than
ban
that,
half the maintainer team because of your shit posting answers in the community media, I'm gonna be mad.
yeah, Melbert just wrote it
Just-
up pretty nicely. Maintainers are typically not supposed to be running events or handling tickets, but like, who's gonna stop you? That's about it.
I will stop you before Oranges fucking bans me from the codebase site.
That's just the proxy war. Okay, all right. See you. We're gonna get someone up next.
yeah,
Thanks, time green.
good luck. Thanks.
Yeah, that's all right. Right up next, we have Ismail. Hello, Ismail.
Hello. I just have a question on behalf of the Manual Tarkov Metagang. How do you headmans plan to deal with balancing traders on Manual with the new Murderbone rule?
Great difficulty.
So essentially, make it harder, so that way people can't Murderbone as hard.
More that we have a rework for the entire MRP rule set in the works. And when I say it's in the works, it's been in the works since halfway through last term, given over to us. I've been taking chips at it occasionally, but there's the MRP rule set relies a lot on essentially good faith, and it's very hard to write rules for that aren't either very, very easy to make too strict or aren't very, very easy to just walk around by anyone who wants to ignore their spirit or subvert the spirit in favor of I'm going to play on the server where everyone else is held back from power gaming so I can power game as hard as I want and win in as derogatory quotation marks as I can put win in that context. It is hard that we had the main like basic antag transition into every single one of them is a round ending antag. In general, I think the rules still work. but they have been struggling, and I don't know if there's an easy way to fix that without a full scale rewrite of how those rules work. Traders still
Would it
aren't
be fair to say that we'll
changing.
be seeing a more consistent round removal, however, especially considering how current traders seems to have panned out, especially for the MRP servers?
I think of all the MRP rules, RPR 6 still applies pretty well to Progtots. They still, if you take a Progtot's stuff away and put them in perma, they're still not going to like teleport out through a wall the way like a wizard will, or they're not just going to go out through space without doing it the way a normal prisoner would, the way a changeling will. So I think in most cases, RPR 6 is still going to apply just fine. You shouldn't be executing them for the crime of being a Progtot. And if they're just doing more things worthy of execution, then that's fine under RPR 6. If Progtots are more likely to do things that are serious crimes worthy of being kicked out of the round from, then it's fine if they get kicked out of the round. It was never meant to be thou shalt not remove antags from the round. It was meant to be give antags a chance to do something interesting before you do that. And if they've done their interesting thing, if one of them's gone on a murder spree to kick someone's eyes out of their skull and kill 3 people and leave funny cranes in their pockets, then yeah, sure, kill them.
All right. That'll be it for me.
All right.
Also, shout out Tapu Bulu.
I don't know who that is. Thanks for answering that one. I had no idea how it is.
It's not an easy one to answer, but yeah.
Anyways, next up we have Cap Sandy. Hello, Cap Sandy. Hello?
We cannot hear you.
Can't Bell player be like... that's unfortunate. They did. I didn't disconnect them. I think that was themselves. Unfortunate. If you can hear this, Cap Sandy, just re-queue whenever you can. Next up, we have Easy. Hello, Easy.
Hi. Hello. So serious question first. Thought on current state of Silicon policy.
It's Silicon policy.
That's real. Anyways, I've played with Silicon policy since 2020, and I'm like the person that Silicon policy was made for. And I don't know. I managed to play with it, and I managed to administrate with it. I don't know if there's. I mean, I do want to touch. We have like altered it because I always administrated under a certain assumption. Like earlier this term, it was sort of like, because the way I administrated and the way I played, I always assumed that the AI core was a protected area under Silicon policy. Like, as in you can decline access if they don't under like a certain set of criteria. And I always assumed that, and
it's been enforced.
Turns out that was
for a while.
Turned out that wasn't explicitly stated.
It's been enforced as that ever since the ability to change the laws of AIs by bopping their cores with a law board was implemented. Since getting access to an AI's core is functionally identical to getting access to its upload.
Yeah, that's all you got on it?
In general, I think Silicon policy is fine, It's Silicon policy is always fine until suddenly it isn't. But I haven't seen any major meltdowns in Silicon policy recently, so I think it's doing all right. Can always work on it, quotation marks, some more if need be, if it breaks again.
Okay, second question. You guys gonna let me be a Sybil admin?
Did you apply for admin?
I'm gonna.
Okay, you should do that.
Gonna
That's first step.
I'm basically plus
alright.
wanting, like, just to view into current admin training. Any Sybil admin that an admin trainer is willing to say, yeah, I'm willing to go out on a limb for this person, I'm plus wanting at the moment. So get an admin trainer.
Yeah, just make an admin application. That's the first step.
Yeah, well, as said previously, there aren't a lot of active, like, you know,
I'm gonna be right
Sybil.
back.
I
I'll
played.
I'll
Hey,
back in a minute.
listen. I played Sybil last night, and technically I'm an admin trainer, so make an
Oh,
admin application.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
all you need. Oh, Spook's gonna be gone for 15 minutes. Looks like it's me and you, Rave.
All right, so
Please
congrats
survive.
on the decent term so far. See you
All
guys.
right, thank you. All right. Any thoughts, Rave? You've been silent a little bit.
You guys are saying a lot of what I already think, which
So yeah, just feel free to interject me if I'm taking up too much time,
yeah,
or like lead in or lead out. I don't know.
yeah, for sure.
Next up, we have Sarek. Hello, Sarek.
Hello. So just I'll get into my question. So this is just for Manuel specifically. It has to do with the Rule 10 of the roleplay rules. I don't know if this really falls in policy discussion or not. So just
Okay.
stop me if it's not on topic. But as much fun as it is to table someone for breaking into your work area, is dealing with that kind of person something that is related to escalation rules, or is that something that should be handled by admins? So I only ask because, you know, if someone comes into a work area or something, I typically just assume that they're an antag, and I'm not going to just help every single person that's coming in. But it is also rather annoying whenever I get to the end of a round and I found, wow, that guy was being a dick the whole time. Like, not even an antag, he was just doing
So,
whatever.
We're talking specifically about Rule 10, RPR 10, which is stay in your lane.
Yep.
And most of my experience and understanding of that rule has been directly in regards to job content, but it sounds like you're discussing it as an application towards trespassing. Am I understanding that correctly?
Not trespassing, just in like getting in there. Like, obviously, if someone's walking around, that's one thing. But let's say you're doing Atmos and someone comes in and starts like fiddling and toying with things and starting ripping up things and putting them down.
Okay, so that's still, so I mean, in the hypothetical you're providing, like, they could still be kind of just like off in their own corner with like your resources, or they're like actively messing around with your like build. Like, let's say that you're actually doing a project for the station as a part of your job content, and they're trampling on that. Like, that's problematic. But you're also dealing with like a secure area. Like, I would compare it to, or most of my thoughts are more in regards to like service stuff. So like, if the bartender's not around and you're like looking to get a drink, like, do you climb over the table and like get your drink set up, or do you try and contact the bartender first? And that's the kind of philosophy I personally try to have with a lot of RP job content. Is you should give people a chance to like do the thing they signed up for before you start like taking care of all of that. And that also plays into the old situation where Grey Tiders would just drag their friends into med bay and do all the surgery on them and then leave. People hated that kind of thing as well. So are you talking about people picking up your tools and doing something on their own, or are you talking about people actively getting in the way of your work?
I suppose the question is more along, regardless of the content, should I assume that it is something that I should take into account through escalation policy, rather than like looking at this like, oh shit, they're breaking Rule 10, I'm gonna, contact an admin.
You should do is make an attempt to engage them, like use your words, and if they respond with their words and you guys can have any sort of interaction about the situation, you should consider like going through escalation. But if somebody is just like really being like super focused on like the mechanical experience that they're going for, and are being like hostile without like taking any effort to have like a sense of like style or effort, you should consider helping it. Does that make sense?
Yep, that perfectly answers it.
Like you can get away with so much on RP. There is so much room to get away with things in RP as long as you're just actually talking to people about it, or taking any moment to have like flair or drama or style. Like the rules bend pretty far if you're making it interesting.
Yep.
So,
All right. Yeah, that's how I tried to handle it. Is just if it's interesting to interact with, but I just wanted to like the wording on the rule 10 just made it seem like, man, is like if I were to do that, am I like getting in trouble? Am I doing something wrong here?
yeah, and so now you feel like you can move forward if you find yourself in that situation again?
Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for queuing up. You
All
got
right.
anything else? No, there he goes. Awesome.
Yep. I don't know. All right. Who is next? We have Effie. Good. Hello, Effie.
Yo, so I'm gonna kind of go off of Seric's question here. Just mainly, how is MRP moderated? Because it's like sorry, I forgot the name. Manuel's like the only popular MRP server that there is. It's kind of the same as it feels like there's a lot of power gaming. Not many sec kind of follow the official like lines and stuff there. I guess it's kind of along the line of that with the stay in the lane rule. Like, there's been lots of situations where I feel like when you try and RP out a situation, it just gets ignored, and it obviously got answered through that. But I guess it's more just how are these all kind of managed?
Comes down to like as Spook was saying earlier, a lot of this comes down to good faith, and after a fashion, people are largely locked in a prisoner's dilemma, where the urge to preempt the other person or otherwise like guarantee the continued success of your round experience like causes people to jump the gun and just suck out all the potential for any kind of like interaction in order to like win the situation. And I admit that this is something that I've been thinking about since I think like after like year one of Manuel, this is something that's like been on my mind a lot. And I don't have a really clean answer to it aside from, continue to be willing to try and have something decent and try not to get too upset when the other person is like too new or too inconsiderate. Maybe they've got like social problems of their own, or they just don't get it. But like eventually people can come around. Sometimes things do work out, and like largely you just kind of have to keep having faith. And I know that sucks. In regards to like how Manuel is moderated, the rule 12, main rule 12 is supposed to be a power gaming rule that we can start to make decisions on how people's play styles are affecting overall round progression. But in terms of like the nitty gritty of moderation, ultimately people are largely playing off of this kind of like common law concept where we have these like broad rules and people have to rely on their experience of like what they've considered good and like what they've like participated in themselves in order to really decide like where the line is. In addition to that, it's hard to be everywhere at once. People love to help with, did you see that? And it's like, unfortunately, I didn't, because I was following someone else, or maybe even some admins like leave themselves like logged in so that when they hear a boink they can act on it. But like sometimes we just don't know what the hell's going on, and if people don't help it and like have these kinds of like conversations with us about what's going on, things can fall under the radar. So everyone's trying their best, and in addition to that, largely we generally don't want to come in like kicking doors down and demanding that people stop playing the game for a bit when we don't have like much of a history established with it. we take a lot of pride in trying to remain fair in how we do our ban appeal system. And so when you combine that with this sort of like common sense attempt at moderation, you have people who are trying to act with least force and give everyone a chance, which can look and feel really shitty when you've just been wronged by them and they just like cut that shit out. But it's like not something that can happen instantly. Sometimes it can, which is fucking great, but it's not a guarantee. Does that
Yeah,
help at
I
all?
think. Yeah, I think it's just because I came from Terry, I went to go to Campbell, but obviously that's like never populated. So
We'd
it's
love to
kind of
see
like
Campbell populated, but yeah,
yeah,
not yet.
I've tried, but I guess the other question is there going to be like any kind of review of the speciesism kind of policy? Like, for me, it just feels like a kind of get out of free card to just be racist and abusive to some people, in a sense.
So
Like,
if people are taking it like to a level of griefing, that's a whole other discussion. But the host has put his foot down on certain terminology and whether or not it's acceptable within the community and like his vision of what the game should be. And it's largely agreed to by the community and or at least the admin team especially, that we're not interested in abolishing like human supremacy as a concept of the game. Like for us, for the theme of like dystopian like corporate like atmospheres and all that kind of stuff, largely like systemic speciesism is a desired theme within the game. So to that end, that's not really going to change unless you have like a large shift in the community's culture. But I would also have you played on Paradise or other servers where they don't have speciesism, like or at least don't have it to a large degree?
I have not, no.
Okay. I personally haven't found it to be the most riveting experience. People already complain that species don't have a lot going for them aside from like aesthetic difference. And if you remove human supremacy, it gets a lot more boring.
That's an alternate way to put it is that the general theme that Nanotrison at best doesn't give a fuck about the people who work for it and an active corporate dystopia is one that we're trying to enforce. But as mentioned earlier, when that line blurs into people are just being racist with different words, that's potentially an OOC issue. Using speciesism to make interesting stories about how the world that these characters live in kind of sucks is something we encourage. Using it as a way to just be racist to people with a step removed isn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that in a way. I think the problem is it just makes playing other races just feel nearly pointless, and I guess it kind of goes along the same as how AI or Silicons don't see any other species as human. So it just kind of feels like you're at a constant disadvantage. Like, what is the point other than the aesthetic difference?
So how long have you been playing the game?
A good couple of months now.
Okay. So when you're a new player and you're learning all the mechanics, it's really exciting to push for the ceiling, because then you can like kind of like have like that peak like power feeling of like understanding how everything works and you're one with the matrix and you're getting it all done. For some people, they have a hard time adjusting to continue to enjoy the game once they've hit that point, and there are a bunch of different reactions to it. But one of the ways to continue playing the game and to continue enjoying the game without like running all over everybody else's stuff is to start like sandbagging yourself. And that's largely what the point of the whole like quirk system is. And it's also to an extent like what the point of species are. the further you can disadvantage yourself, like the harder you can make the game on yourself, the more room you have to, feel challenged and enjoy engaging it without running the risk of going off the rails and, getting banned for power gaming or whatever.
For
As like a
reference,
general rule of thumb, if that makes sense.
speaking for myself, all of my characters which are felonids purely and entirely so that the AI players of the round can bully and kill them without Asimov getting in the way.
Yeah, losing Asimov is a big step. You have to think twice about the kinds of conflicts you get into, because any human who's like, getting into a fight with you can instantly sick silicons on you. Like, it is harder and it does suck more, but there's a fun in that. I don't know.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, who's up next? May. Hello, May. Your mic is muted. Oh, okay. Do you want to read it, Rave, or should I?
The May one.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like a code issue. Or
Players have control over events. That doesn't sound.
That is a combination of code issue and probably something that we wouldn't want to see implemented.
It would have to be, you'd have to have some config on that. I believe there is a config that allows players to run SDQL stuff. I vaguely remember there
players SDQL access is ever a good idea.
Yeah, SDQ. Yeah, there is a config. Something's in config for that sort of stuff. And at one point, it's like maybe it's because the config on TG is old because they've like removed feature over the years. So I think players definitely could. You just got
at a minimum level, like something where like on low pop the crew could all vote to face a lone op or something, so they have something to do, maybe. But
That
even
seems-
then, that seems very, very gamey and not something I'd be.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you're playing a game. It seems like you're violating the roleplay aspect of the game to play a game. Yeah, just too gamey. It's like I think Skyrat has something similar to that, where it's like you could like opposing forces or whatever they call it. And I don't really like that concept that you can choose how your round goes. I like personally. So, like it just feels like you're controlling the game too much, even though you're meant to like abdicate some control of like what's going to happen to you during a shift.
Also, I don't want to really see the thing where people just keep spamming trying to spawn lone ops so they can get a hold of a lone op uplink and start buying Nuki gear.
Yeah, that's also screwed up. Op4 is applied for an admin's decide if it happened at all. Oh, okay. Thanks for the clarification. All right, I'm going. All right. Did you have anything to say on a topic, Rave?
If it's admin mediated, I don't hate the idea of like. I tend to take IC requests from players, especially in low pop, a lot more seriously. Like, hey, admin, can I have a lone op in prayer? If the station's like, oh, CENTCOM or hacks it with an emag, oh, Syndicate, send us something to do, but in less gamey terms, I'll consider that a lot more effective, a lot more. I consider that with a lot more interest. I like making those methods of IC communication meaningful. So if other admins want to take that as submission, if you see someone using the proper CENTCOM or Syndicate communication methods to taunt CENTCOM or the Syndicate or whatever, or try and bait them into sending more antags because the crew are obviously bored, then do it. But an actual button of press here to get more antag to kill, I'm not all that interested in, and is also a code issue.
I think that's all that has to be said. All right, who's up next? It's Lucky Onzek up next, but I think they've been on a lot, so I'm just going to get Cheshire and then we'll get Lucky Onzek.
anti-favoritism.
Hello.
You fool! You fool! You bastard! You've allowed. Okay.
You got 4
I've got
minutes,
a few
Kesh.
things
Go,
to.
go, go.
Oh fuck! All right. First thing, when are we getting the updated Manuel Murderbone rules? Because right now, as the Murderbone rules currently stand, traders don't think that they're allowed to do anything, but they're allowed to do things. People just don't realize that IC reasoning is an actual thing. So when are we getting the new stuff? So we need to stop handling issues of people doing stupid things, trying to be fun, getting banned for it.
A while, probably.
Fuck.
That's
Also,
true.
why does roleplay rule 1 fucking suck and is awful?
Because at the time it wasn't actually firmly established in a way that was. It needed to be firmly established when Manual was first being put up, but Manual was first put up 2 years ago, so it's kind of one of those things where it's why is this the foundation of our roleplay rules? Everyone already knows it. We don't need to say it out loud because it was RPL 1. It was the first rule was these are additional rules, and everyone's just integrated that over 2 years.
Yeah, so would a overall look into the roleplay rules in order to find hey, this doesn't need to be said, or these two mean the exact same things, or one thing I very, very specifically noticed, just pull it up here, is that the roleplay rules themselves have rules that have a headline that's very, very different to what the text actually says. Like, don't use OOC information or knowledge that your character would not reasonably be aware of just to give you an advantage. And the text behind that isn't about OOC information, it's about not power gaming.
There's a lot of stuff that was cleared up in the draft MRP rule set rewrite,
Okay.
but there's a lot of
Okay.
stuff that's like, this doesn't work. How do we fix it? Oh, it's hard to fix, especially for things like power gaming and such, where any attempt to rewrite it is necessarily going to result in a change in policy, and a change in policy like that, especially when you're doing it all at once, is tricky to balance because I don't think anyone really wants like a headman, the one headman doing the writing at the time, unilaterally deciding that they want to change the rules big time.
Okay.
I've been chipping at it occasionally from the big partial rewrite that Timber and Melbert and Mothblocks left with us, which is pretty solid, but has enough points in it that I'm leery to just go, oh, this is good enough and implement it. But that got my work on that got shifted back as I started working on naming policy rewrite, which is something I really need to force out the next version of.
So which of those do you think is going to be looked into first?
Naming policy.
Okay, that's fair. Final question, third and final question, North Star 2023.
That's not a question.
North Star, it's coming. You can't stop it.
Me on my way to seize control of the map config repo.
That's
The
okay.
OB would actually like fly into Continental and come murder me if I did that, so don't worry.
Yeah, I think I don't know what UOB would or wouldn't do, but let's get lucky on Zek up again. Hello there.
Hello. I'm starting to feel kind of guilty coming up on the stage 3 times. Feel kind of selfish, not gonna lie. But I've written down more questions here.
Okay.
So, do you think that admin notes should better reflect or otherwise include the behavior of the person in the ticket in question? I.e., if I noting down if the guy in the ticket was understanding, polite, or otherwise rude and stubborn.
We do that.
I mean,
they often do.
I do it.
That kind of
Generally,
thing tends to. Sorry, Rafe. That kind of thing tends to kind of come up where it's notable. If you're normal in a ticket, we generally won't mention it because notes can already be, especially if we're being thorough, the better part of paragraphs. We don't really have anything like you must include this minor piece of often irrelevant information when you're writing your paragraph of explaining why something's happened. But if you're particularly polite or you're understanding all that, I think that tends to be noted down. And if you're particularly being an asshole in tickets, or you really don't get why whatever it is you're doing is a problem, that also tends to be noted down. Go ahead, Ray.
Oh yeah, those more or less That was more or less it. I generally, if people are pretty calm about it, I put down that they're understanding. If people like say that they're not going to do it again, but they also like go on about how they don't get that it's against the rules, even after having a protracted conversation with them about it, it's probably a good idea to say like, didn't really understand why this was a problem. Because that's really going to inform the next person who has to interact with them.
All right. Got another question here. Also related to tickets. Out of all the tickets you've handled, which one is the one you remember most for all the right or wrong reasons?
We have a compilation of the funny ones. That's all that really needs to be said.
I would like to see some of the funny ones, even if by second hand.
There's a good one on Orange's website. It's the that help my OC broke. That's a pretty good example. I'll put a link in the chat.
We'd have to.
Yeah, that's an example of like a funny help ticket that
Most
we might
of the
keep.
tickets we keep for being funny, we don't go to like the initial difficulty, or don't really so much difficulty as we don't put in the extra effort since it's only seen by admins of pre-censoring all the tickets. So if someone wanted to share that community-wide, they'd need to go through and take like the 50 or so save tickets and censor them all, and then be very careful that they're not actually leaking ASA or anything in some of those screenshots.
Fair enough.
The really good ones do occasionally get censored and released, but for the most part, no, we don't publicly reveal tickets unless we have very good reason to do so. And
In a ban appeal, a ticket might be brought out as evidence or like something. I don't know. There's a lot of nuance to it. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. Can I be a manual admin?
I don't even understand what you said.
Something be an admin, I think.
Yeah, you can put an application up, but as we were talking about earlier, we've got a lot of Manuel admins, so that best of luck to you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, who's up next? We got Trox, new person. Get on stage. Hello, Trox.
I have a lot to ask about. So
What's the thing you want to ask about most?
what's going to replace or hold on, let me think of a way to phrase this.
That's not. Oh, I think you're about to ask a code-based question.
Asking about what Northstar is going to replace.
Yeah.
That's
kind of. I mean, that's also kind of policy, though. I mean.
No, it's not.
We do like community polls about it, and the decision's ultimately up to the maptainers. So it really is a code base.
Oh, that's like a separate thing.
I'm not.
In theory, there are config options for playing with maps. In practice, by long-standing tradition, because the maptainers do a lot of work to keep all the maps running and to keep the system going, we don't touch that. EOB doesn't want us to. He puts in a lot of effort to make sure all the maps work and to make sure the rotations is fair to both the community and the maptainers as possible. So we don't play with map config. It's out of our hands.
He's really cool. If you see him, be nice to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. All right. And so this is mostly no code-based questions, basically. All right.
Yeah, code-based.
So
yeah,
another one I just wanted to mention was that. So I know I kind of have a reputation on Manuel, but I just want to say that every time an admin PMs me, they've been doing great. So that's not just because I haven't been banned yet. I've gotten very close, but every single admin's been very reasonable and nice. If you just reciprocate, what's the word? If you're just nice to admins, they'll be nice to you back. There's a lot of people online complaining about that. I just want to clear the air. I just want to let the admins know y'all are doing a great job on Manuel.
Yeah. Thank you for your compliment.
you have anything else on the list, or has that?
Well, I was about to complain about the code base for like 30 minutes, but that's another place, another time, I guess.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right.
Sorry, not sorry.
If they're work. I heard they were working on the coder bus meeting, but I think the holidays are coming, so there might be a lot of conflict. So who knows when that will come out?
That's the reason this one was announced with
Really?
like 2 days of
Yeah.
notice. Technically, we had like a week of notice, but somebody, me, forgot to announce it at that time. So, my bad. Sorry.
All right. That's about it. Then. All right. Up next, we have Capsandy. I think they figured out the problems with their mic with Tattle, so hopefully all goes well this time. Hello again, Capsandy.
Yo, what's down?
Hey, it's
all right. I'm gonna keep it simple. Re-enable and tag rep. We got
It's
too
not
many
even in the code
systems.
base. No, it's not in the code base.
That's
Mothbox
not.
removed it.
No way, really?
Yeah, Mothbox removed it from the code base. It's gone.
Oh,
That's the code base.
bro,
Sorry.
dude, that's crazy, man.
Did you have
Look,
any other questions?
I know we just got too many assistants on these stations. You know, I know it better than anybody. You know, we just need to get rid of them.
You just. I
Yeah,
saw the
dude.
screenshot.
So,
you posted.
you know, yeah, that's basically, you know, we need to find out some way to get rid of all these assistants. You know, they should be playing security like God intended.
We could probably disable assistants having the maintenance access. That's like the only thing that could possibly help with that, but I don't know. I really
Yep, well, that's all I had to say, you know.
Okay.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Yep. Thanks
Alright.
for going through the
No
hell that is debugging your mic for us.
Well, we should give
Anyways,
anti tokens to heads of staff. That'll make people play 'em. And then remove their antags.
okay, Oranges is up next. It's been a while, so. Hello again, Oranges.
Hello. I'm going to do a little verbal ninjutsu to let you answer some code questions.
What?
Head admins, I'd love to hear your thoughts on any code ideas or desires you have, your opinions on any past, present, future changes, or any questions asked before, as your input is valuable to the coder team and therefore can be shared today.
Wow.
Thank you.
Can I have a config option to disable heads of staff from rolling specific antags on specific servers? I'm now having people randomly ping me at like 12 in the fucking morning to tell me that they don't want heads of staff antags on Manuel. Like, that was originally, well, it still is my position, but it's still annoying to get pinged at 3 in the morning that people are mad that low pop heads of staff are ruining the round again.
Does dynamic.json already do that, or you should post it?
I can turn off them from being antags. I haven't seen in the config how I could turn them off from being specific antags from specific roles. Maybe that's just
So
me
you
not
want
understanding.
like more granularity, like for it.
Yeah. I'm interested. People have raised this like a middle ground where keeping some antags around for heads of staff so that they can still like have the paranoia aspect of maybe my head of staff is a changeling and wants to eat me in maintenance without having the acting captain is a traitor for the 5th round in a row. Great. And I'm interested in trying that out as an option, but I don't think that's currently something we can do with config.
Excuse me.
That's just me. If you guys have anything
Thanks.
else to raise,
I
go ahead.
If I wanted something, I would have coded it. I don't need anything.
Oh yeah, pacifism bans. Thank you, Melbert. Love to see pacifism bans. You know, just a ban that gives you round start pacifism as a permanent quirk. You have it for a little bit, and then you don't have it anymore because the ban expired, or maybe it didn't. But point of the matter is, there are people who I've encountered on Manuel who have just like a legit issue with escalation. And it's really hard to ask them to kind of like slow down and sort of like take more of the space in and maybe like learn more about how like Rule 10 works. And sometimes you just lose, and that's a part of the game and the experience. And so, you know, just like get pacifism pilled for a little bit. and it really opens you up to like a whole side of the game that like maybe you haven't engaged as much, and ideally it would help people to kind of understand like what more there is to the game, because similarly to what I was talking about earlier about how like once you hit that ceiling of like your skill cap for the game, if you haven't built up any experience in like the social aspects or the interactive aspects of the game before you complete your sweep of the mechanical experience, it usually leads to a really terrible form of burnout that frequently causes people to get banned. So I would be so excited to see pacifism bans, and I know I've discussed with you like in passing oranges, but like there's some potential for like some other like quirk bans to be like legitimately functional in ways that like might help people have a fresher experience with the game, and I think that's worth tinkering around with. So that's the thing that I'd like to see.
Yeah, and we already spoke about it, and I checked with Mothblocks, and they were okay with pacifism bans. In fact, I think we said we would do like any quirk, like just a quirk application ban.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'll be touching base about that. Should I like start asking somebody to get the code done? Should I try to do it myself, or what should I do for that?
I don't know. It depends on how good you are at coding. Just offer. Didn't you guys have a thing where you're going to offer Antag tokens to people for coding stuff? Just do that.
So yeah,
That's a
so
thing.
we might offer Antag tokens for it.
Yeah.
But I do still have to confer with these guys because I don't think we've had like too much of a personal discussion about it. So this was just me kind of like doing blue sky thinking. Maybe they don't see the value in it, and that's
I think it was one of your campaign promises or one of your campaign.
Yeah, it was definitely something that I put down that I'd say like, if I had my druthers, this would be like the future of things. But we're a balanced team, and I'm not like guaranteed to get anything just because it was a part of my platform. That's just reality.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Oranges?
No, you're welcome.
All right. Let's get someone new in. Who's up next? Bon Choi. Hello, Bon Choi.
Hello, long-time listener, first-time caller. I have a question about Rule 2. Okay, so I play a bit, and I'll see these groups of friends that hang out with each other, and they just, like a magnet, they'll find each other as soon as the round starts. I already see, oh, no. I don't care, I'm going to ask it. But do you, even if it's within the rules because they're not, antagging each other or antagging with each other, do you think it sets a bad example to like newer players who see that these two are friends and they're together? It might cause problems in newer players. I don't know if it kind of makes sense what I'm saying here.
I think I know what you're talking about, so I'm just gonna talk about it. So I don't think it's a bad thing. There are bad things that are associated with as what you're describing is called metagaming, or it's a type of metagaming. What you're describing, and I don't really see that as a totally bad thing. And I wrote about this on the forums. I made like a 4-paragraph post on my thoughts about it. But the too long didn't read on that was basically it's not so much a bad thing to just hang out with other people because that's fun. You want to hang out people with common interests. You want to organize into groups. It's a basic human concept, and we're all human here. Now, we may play as cat girls and lizards and whatnot, but we all are people. So what was I gonna say? It's sort of like I think one of the criticisms that people have with like metagaming and that stuff like that is that a new player may feel excluded or like they might not feel like they can breach into a metagame, but it's like that everywhere. Like if you're the new guy in an already established space, you're gonna have to sort of like somehow get into those groups and somehow find your group and somehow become a member of that subgroup in a community. And that's sort of like how it is in pretty much everything. And the reason why people bring it up here is because metagaming has had like a pretty bad reputation on TG, or it has had a pretty bad what's the word? A really bad negative context. Even though, like, as you say, they're acting within the rules in general. But the thing is, I think that in order to dispel that, I don't think there's many rules that can dispel that. I think it's just more of a community thing. Like, if you see someone struggling with like an in-game concept, or they're like struggling to unbuckle, or you see them, or because like when you started playing this game, you had issues with stuff. You had issues interacting with the game, interacting with the Atmos, interacting with like a certain game feature. The best way to help out the community, help out the new players, and get people into your circle, include people into your circle, get sort of that give back in a sense, would be to just recognize and see people struggling. Because the same way you struggled when you started playing this game is the exact same way new players will struggle when they start playing this game. So a good way, you can metagame all you want, but like if you see someone struggling, if you see someone like actually like failing to grasp a concept, you can just sort of talk to them. Like you don't have to be in a metagame the entire time. In fact, you can even get your friend over there, and you can just talk to the new player, the person who's struggling, and you don't need to always communicate with yourself. You don't always need to encapsulate yourself. And people think that people encapsulate yourself all the time. They might be right, but it's just talk to them. People can take a break. There's no need. I don't think there's a failure that the rules. There's no failure in the rules. It's a failure in how people approach situations. And I think that if people were more considerate to new players, or were more considerate to helping new players, you would see a lot of that drop down. Because even if they may not like eventually breach into that metagame, at least they can have enjoyable experiences figuring stuff out, or having someone teach you something, right? Because that's how people can connect, is through common suffering, and teaching someone is a form of common suffering. There's a lot of nuance in this. There's a lot of nuance. There's a reason why I wrote like 4 paragraphs on this, and I don't really have much more to say than that.
I think that generally people lose sight of the fact that they've been hanging out with the same person for the last 40 minutes. I get that people have friendships, and I've definitely done like my amount of like socializing in this game, and I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with spending the majority of a round hanging around like one or more other people. But I do think that there is a sort of general gameplay loop to the game, like smaller loops that take place within the situation, and that if you're like glued to someone's hip the entire time, that's kind of poor sportsmanship, which isn't something that we can necessarily like dictate like the rules for, and B like enforce any rules against after a fashion. I mean, if it becomes like especially toxic, usually it gets taken care of by some other mechanism. But I think that generally, if everyone had a healthy amount of consideration for what they're doing with their character for the duration of the rounds, and maybe took opportunities to expose themselves to the possible dangers of just being by yourself for a couple of minutes here and there, that people might find the game to be a little bit more spontaneous and interesting. But that's a suggestion, and not something that can really be enforced.
Those are really great answers. Thank you. And San, can you please send me the? I want to see the forum post you made.
Oh yeah,
If you
I'm
could just send it
looking.
to me
I'm literally
whenever.
looking for it right now. I just have
I'd
to find
appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys.
Resisting urge to contradict the other two.
it.
Don't like metagames.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if there's a place in the rules for
Expand
it
on that.
beyond what's already there. That's the problem.
On the rules, there isn't. I'll just expand on what I mean before people take that out of context. I don't like when, if you can see someone in a round and see someone else in the round, you can or not so much semi, but you can very consistently find them together. I think even when people are individually great players who have positive contributions to the round, gluing your hip to someone else for long periods does become a problem. But as Rave says, like, as long as people play in good faith and take the time to break up do other things. You know, if half the time you play with your friends and half the time you go do your other thing, it's not a problem. It's not something that needs to be legislated against. It's just keep in mind there are other people in the game. Don't become exclusionary. Don't make the game into your chat room where you all sit in one place, and if anyone gets in the way of any one of you, they get in the way of everyone, and it's fine.
Yeah, I think it was actually Rave's Metagang Snubs and exclusion thread that I wrote that on, and I put a link to that in text channel.
And I mean, I use Timber as an example because they're an ex-headman. Like, even people who could be really great players back when Timber used to actually play the game, if you glued at the hip to someone, it can become a problem. If you go out of your way to like open yourself up, to interact with new people, to not become a package deal with someone else, then it's fine.
Yeah, my thoughts on this are very scattered. I just want people to just sort of.
Well, I'm going to kidnap Timber and make them play again.
All right, let's get someone up new. All right, Sarek. Hello, Sarek.
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I left earlier when I asked the question. Just wanted to get the things moving along. So this question is probably oddly specific, but I figured I'd rather ask it, and maybe someone else might have a similar question. So as a player, how should we handle moments where team members, such as Atmos Tech to Atmos Tech, botanist to botanist, perform massive projects that create difficulty for the other team members? So to give a more specific example so you understand what I mean, and this is not like, hey, go get this guy, more of an example. During the Halloween event when skeletons were playable, there was an Atmos Tech who routinely created a tritium factory in the Atmos area, which caused a lot of radiation that he was immune to, but it made any other Atmos Tech's job, awful, annoying, just not a good time because you had to spend so much time trying to deal with the radiation. How should, as a player specifically, regarding rules, escalation policies, such as things like that, how should they handle it?
I think the only aspect of the rules and enforcement that comes into play there is how stale the gimmick is. Because ultimately, while that does, like, in terms of your experience of having someone who's effectively being antisocial towards you, like, that does suck. But I would say that, one, you have potential escalation against them, which is a part of the gameplay that we're supposed to be all about. Or you can literally just go somewhere else and try and scavenge like what content you can that way. And I know that doesn't sound like that sounds like inconveniencing, and like ultimately it is, but really this game is about incidental challenges to your ideal round expectation. And the moment that you have the round where everything goes perfectly is like the moment that your gameplay experience starts to go downhill for continue like future rounds. So that is my stance on it. Yeah, embrace having your round derailed. If somebody is being really stale about it over multiple shifts, help it.
Basically, my take on it too. If it's like someone's done this for the last 6 rounds and isn't letting anyone else play, help it's a rule 1 issue. Won't always be an issue, but sometimes it will be. Sometimes you're gonna not be able to use your primary space. Sometimes you're gonna have to deal with problems in your primary space. If they were consistently doing it and doing it in ways that made it completely uninhabitable, it's an issue. Otherwise, put a rad suit on, go somewhere else, build a HFR in the lava land where it saw the icebox wastes and raise the average temperature of the planet by 3 degrees. There's other stuff you can do.
We've got so many Atmos like ruins just generally on the stations. Hopefully you'd be able to find some fun there, even if it was like challenging yourself to use maintenance corridors to do your Atmos stuff. I mean, you got options, hopefully.
Yep. Also, back in the day, you would use the incinerator room to make tritium. I think that strategy has gone out of play since 2020. And back then, you would put on a rad suit. It was like in the days of can fusion. You would do it in the incinerator room, and if you walk in the incinerator room and got cancer, it was like, I was making fusion. You should have listened to the comms. If you communicate and say, hey, I'm doing a tritium can. I'm doing a fusion can in the incinerator. Fusion cans aren't in the game, but like you would say that, and if someone got ganked, it's like, damn, you should have paid attention, or you should have like. Some rooms have like radiation symbols on them too.
With new rads and stuff, there's a lot of ways as well that you can kind of go on mini quests to go get the stuff that makes you just immune to it. With new rads, the virology symptom, radioactive resonance, makes you entirely immune to radiation damage. You'll heal faster from being irradiated than being irradiated will harm you. So it's stuff like that can also lead to gameplay loops of, oh, I'll just go beg Viro for something, or talk to the virologist, or talk to genetics, or talk to Cargo for more rad suits, or whatever. More stuff to do. As Ray said and Tattle said, embrace around getting derailed, find other stuff to do. The game's all about like that emergent gameplay, stuff to do that's in response to what other people are doing and what's happening in the round, rather than planning out exactly what you want to do from minute 1 through minute 129.
All right. That all sounds good. For the most part, yeah, the routine is definitely the I think the point where I was like getting more upset, where it's like, well, I would love to do Atmos Tech, but I don't want to be irradiated every round. But thanks for that. That helps a lot.
Again,
and
if someone's doing it every round, then it's potentially an OOC issue. They help it, and admins may step in and it's like, hey, dude, you've been doing this for the last 6 rounds. You're not really giving anyone else the opportunity to like play in this environment. Can you either like be less disruptive or kind of cut it out for a bit and then come back later?
Then they have to embrace being derailed.
All right, I appreciate it. That answers my question. The only thing I was going to say is I want to shout out Pumpkin Zero for helping me with an issue a while ago. He did something for like a whole week trying to figure out what the hell the problem was. So just
any
saying. Actually, it was more a mystery still, but he worked like a week on it, and it was funny at the end of the day. So I appreciate all the work he did. That's all it is.
So no raise for Pumpkin then.
Yeah, we're no worries. Didn't meet customer satisfaction thresholds.
Sorry, Pumpkin, no raise. All right, thank you, Sarek.
All right, bye.
All right, who's up next? Stereo. Hello, Stereo.
Invite. What if I just decline? All right, so a couple softballs really quick. How you guys doing? It's a couple months into your Headman term. I have no concept of time, so I don't know how many months it's actually been. How's it going for you guys? What do you see? What do you want to say? Let the people know. You've got like 70 listeners.
I just sit here.
I want there to be less policy. I need to make up another big policy doc. I did one for the last big round of policy we did, and I need to update it so we can do another big cleaning out of the policy section. I don't mean I don't want people to like engage in policy or put up policy threads. That's fine. Put up policy threads if you've got anything you want to raise, but we need to answer more of them, and I need to work on that. So I've been procrastinating.
I'm noticing a stark silence from Rave Radberry.
I'm just thinking.
him-
Last time I did Headman, schedules were different, and we were able to meet really frequently. And I think that also I was blessed with like a Headman teammate who was more of a timekeeper. This term for me has largely been making sure that I'm not stepping too much on the toes of my fellow team members, because this is their time to be Headman and have it all like be like new and powerful and important for the first time. And so I've really wanted to make sure that I didn't end up overshadowing any of their like experience and desire to engage the system as it is. So yeah, that's been it largely. I've had a couple of opportunities to try and handle some stuff that has sucked, because being Headman kind of sucks sometimes. You have to handle some really unpleasant things, and you have to kind of keep it to yourself. And you also have to walk through some really precarious social situations. But it's rewarding. Always happy to have done it. Happy to be a part of this term. and I really appreciate getting to help out this community because I think y'all are pretty great, and I want to see us like grow and thrive, and I, yeah, that's how it's going.
Less softball question, and one I suppose close to home for me. As admins, what's your read on the the situation on Sybil? Because it feels like there's this system where new admins come in, and then the old admins are like, "Holy shit, motherfucking new admins! Time to fucking die! Let's go!" What does that look like to you guys?
I mean, it's more of like, how do you? What's a good way to phrase it? It's more like you see it and you know what's happening, but there's like you try and think of ways that you can approach it. You try and you really do think about it. You're like, oh, I could admin more. You know, I still have my permissions. Or you think about it and you're like, oh, hey, sometimes you can. What's the way to phrase it? And I'm talking about Sybil specifically, like my thoughts I've been having on it the last few weeks. You're like, maybe we can get more people, but then you're like, who do I get? And you sort of look through, and you're like, really biting. No one's really biting. Because the thing is, or it's like, oh, hey, I like playing this new video game I have because new video games constantly come out, and you're like, I want to play my brand new fancy video game rather than, go back to play Space Station 13 or something. So and it's like, then you don't admin. It's like you waste nights. Like the nights, like sometimes I'm like sitting in class where I'm like doing something else, and I sort of think, I kind of feel in the mood to admin on Space Station 13 tonight. And then it's midnight, and I didn't. So it's like, I see it, I know it's happening, and everyone knows it's happening, and everyone wants to tell me because they don't think I know that's happening. But I do know that's happening. I know, I saw that list, Sinful. I saw it. And that's all I really have to say about it. I saw your list. It's just sort of like, it's nice that we're getting, and like sometimes Manuel admins would go to Sybil and like they would,
and I love them for it. Admins visiting Sybil. Love you guys.
Yeah, the drag meme was one of those people that I saw do that. But that was a while ago. That was a long while ago. I think I was like barely a game admin. It's sort of like, I know it's a thing. I'm aware it's a thing. I think about it.
Yeah, just wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
Just like it's just like there's so much nuance to it. There's just so many moving things that it's just like
Sybil is a confluence of issues. We had a lot of regular admins who have, via life circumstances or situations like that, not like able to tune in and pick up the admin stick and hit people with it. As people are saying in chat, trial admins do a lot of heavy lifting. Once somebody finishes being a trial admin, I mean, some people just decide that it's not for them before their trial's even over. Some people do it and stick around for a while. Like, the longevity of any given trial admin is not something that's necessarily easy to spot, but there definitely do seem to be sort of like categories of people who like adminning like sits well with them, and they'll be able to stick around until life circumstances prevent them. There are people who get burned out on the whole concept. There are people who lose interest in the game. And then, we've got people like Vector, who's like always hitting up supportman pings, always taking care of ping bus pings, or like trying to get somebody else on when he's unable to. And I know that like Vector gets a lot of flack from the community, but he really is one of those people who has kept an eye on as many things as he can, and he really goes the distance in terms of making sure that like anybody's there to pick up the phone.
Shout out to Vector, one of the best admins ever, all time, goated.
There you go.
All right. Love the answers. Love that I get a chance to speak because I love the sound of my own voice. So thank you for this great opportunity to feed my own ego.
Shout out to Watermelon for creating Ping Bus, which has been a crucial concept for ensuring admin coverage during these lean times.
All right, you can kill me now.
All right.
If you guys want to get the next person on the queue, I'm just typing something out.
All right.
Or you can leave me in here so I can just be a presence.
I'm typing.
All right, we got Seth Deeses. You're on, Seth. Oh, his mic broke 2 months ago. All right, so it's a text question. There's a fumble.
Why'd you ping me? No,
being
I
one
don't
hidden-
want. I don't want Ashwalkers to have a bigger play on the station. I
Ashy-
like them where they are. I want.
Ashy's a
I
good-
want either where they are or less. So
As a general rule, we're not that thrilled with any proposal for a voluntary ghost roll, especially a voluntary ghost roll which can spread and make more of itself, having big impacts on the station.
The only increase in Ashwalker station activity that I'd like to see personally harkens back to when I tried to make that game mode that pushed everybody onto Lava Land. Like Ashwalkers shouldn't really be doing any more like up onto the station, but if we want to like push more crew out into Lava Land, that's neat, you know.
Yeah,
That's
we don't.
that's my stance.
We really don't want like an antagonist that's a full antag or even just more than the very restricted antag Ashwalkers are that you can just click on round start and go, I'm an Ashwalker now. I can go do whatever. But we don't want that. We don't want ghost rolls that you can just observe, see what's going on, know what's happening in the round, and then go pick up and have big impacts on the round to exist.
One more question from Seth.
That's EOB's concern, not ours.
Yeah.
what was the question? I didn't see. I can't. I
And
didn't
he,
see.
remo-
What's the
he wanted
question?
to remove
Remove
Kilo.
Kilo, the question.
Ah, that's quite funny there. Okay. Anyways, who's up next?
It's gonna be Fiku.
All right, solid.
Fiku, you're on.
Am I on?
You are.
Hello.
Hello?
Your eyes.
Wait, oh, right, okay. What's happening with naming policy?
Eventually, I'm going to stop by chatting with myself and push out my latest version to the admin bus thread for discussing it. As soon as it
Luke's got
passes,
naming policy like 95% done, and
Okay,
they're just
okay.
set to get draft.
as soon
in
as it
bus.
gets past that step and it's not like too heavily byte shedded, I'm going to push it to a thread on the forums and then through policy bus. And it'll
Can we
probably be-
get some like leaks about the draft?
Moth having dumb nicknames as their name is being made canon. EOB's already signed off on Lawmaster. Soup is a valid Moth name.
Yes. We're souping.
Anything else, Fiku?
Let me think. Not really. I would like to shout out my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton.
That's known. Did someone have their button on? Did someone have their finger on that button? That wasn't me.
I think Oranges, I think Rave was interested in codifying the felons having food-based names. That's something I
Oh
still
yeah,
need to
yeah.
add.
Oranges. That was that was a stipulation I added. Is that felinid food names are canon? That there's no way. Like, look
Yeah,
up
that's in there
the
somewhere.
oldest cat in the world, or at least that we have on record. Their name is Cream Puff. Like, it's a 17-year-old cat named Cream Puff, and that really clinched it for me. Like,
That's real.
yeah, I mean, that I was just like, wow, it's literally just a felinid.
I'm inviting the next person.
All right.
That's the bait poster.
Hello, Jax.
Hi, I'd like to talk about positive notes. Are you guys interested in seeing more positive notes being handed out? And what would you like to see
Yeah.
positive notes handed out for?
For whatever an admin wants to.
I think positive notes are great. I think admins should just hand them out when they like. We don't really have scales of them, so I don't like when they're held up. It's like, I have positive notes, I'm untouchable. But in general, positive notes are good. Noting that people have done nice things, that people have been good community members, that people have just been cool when given event roles. Event roles especially is something that's great for it because it makes it easy to have like a pool of people to pull from if you're looking for specific like high intensity event roles or less high intensity and more high investment in event roles. Anything that an admin is willing to go out and say, yeah, this person was good in this instance, I'm happy to see positive notes for.
Okay, and as a follow-up to that, like, what's the conduct for handing out positive notes? Should I be boinking first and talking to them about it, or should I just hand it out like, no knock? Here's
If
your
you
note?
want to say, hey, I really like your vibes in the boink. Yeah, you can boink anyone over anything as long as
It's
you
entirely
follow.
up to the admin.
Yeah, it's your thing.
If you really be like, hey, that was really, really cool to see whatever the hell you just did, I'm just going to leave a note for it because it was really cool. Keep it up, and you can do that. If you just want to no knock, like, this person was a really good syndicate intern or whatever, you can do that too. Entirely up to admins. Just note when you think things are cool and you want to see more of them.
Okay, that's just my only question. Thank you.
All right, see you, Jax. Raxus. Who's up next? Easy again. Hello, Easy.
I had a couple more questions in case you guys wanted to hear them.
Sure.
So first
You're
off, I'm not considering adding in space law into policy at all, but there's been talk of revision. So
I think there was a thread about that last term. I don't know if they did anything with it though.
I started it the term before that and then passed it over to Melbert. Melbert got a lot more done with it, but it's still like incomplete. EOTC has been like a sticking point in terms of how people are trying to like RP and understand the game. And even though we tell people space law isn't policy, people still like look to it for guidance, and it results in like an unnecessary amount of like executions, like instant executions as well. And so it's still something to be worked on. I personally am not a security gigabrain, so it's not something that I have a solution for. And I was hoping that the security gigabrains of the community could come forward with like a most holy and like righteous answer. But I think they're still in deliberation because it's like a difficult question. EOTC is enemy of the corporation, which, according to space law, warrants execution.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Anyways,
Just speaking of more space law, it's something I'm personally interested in making changes to, but I've already got two major things that I should probably focus on first. That's why I haven't been like, yeah, I'm interested in that. I'll claim that. Because I've got to get naming policy done in general, and then there's the MRP, all right. And if I can get those done, then I'll probably look into it. But that's taken a while already, and I don't know if they'll even be done by the time the term's finished for my contribution to anything like that.
Cool. If there's nothing else on that, also, I really like Blood Brothers. I'd like to see them on LRP. They're really cool. I think it's the best Antag that's ever been in this game, with the possible exception of Old Tots. But yeah, I want to know your thoughts on Blood Brothers.
I very much dislike Blood Brothers. I know other people do like them, but I've had them off. Well, asterisk, I really like Blood Brothers when I have at least like a basic knowledge of who the other person is, and they know who I am. So at least we could like have some common ground for like this is how I tend to end tag, this is how they tend to end tag. We can meet in the middle somewhere. My experience with random Blood Brothers personally as a player is generally something along the lines of nobody has anything idea what's happening, and then we just take the path of least resistance to achieve our end tags and then leave because we're a team antagonist and neither of us are allowed to really like intentionally cause problems in the name of interesting things happening.
Easy.
Um,
You're asking for Blood Brothers to go back to LRP?
Oh yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
so cool. I've had so many fun times with my blood brother on LRP, both in times where we try to complete our objectives and times that we've just tried to do our own thing.
I mean,
know,
I'm open to talking about it. I was a part of the team that enabled Blood Brothers on MRP, and part of the reason that we only did it for MRP was because there are so many stories of getting a terrible Blood Brother partner and then feeling like you've wasted the round, and then also people just helping to have it taken away and be exchanged for something else. The idea was that MRP allowed, hopefully, which it doesn't necessarily, but like hopefully it would allow for like enough interaction that people could actually make something of it, even if they didn't know each other or have like a vibe for one another at the beginning. Maybe
the
make
problem-
a policy thread and see what people think, because I think a lot of LRP players aren't Blood Brothers fans, but I could be surprised.
The thing
would
that
say that, yeah. Policy
the thing, as me, I'm LRP player. The problem I have with Blood Brothers is that in theory it sounds great, but the thing is that I've seen it as it's Blood Brothers is like it's time to kill everyone on the station except one person, and that's your Blood Brother, and that's how it's been applied, and that's how it's been seen. So that's why it's okay for MRP is because you're not allowed to kill everyone on the station, but it's like for Blood like in theory on LRP, there's no safeguards against Blood Brothers. There would need to be more policy to prevent that sort of thing, where it's just like Blood Brothers is a license to kill everyone except the person on your team. So there would need to be more policy before I would consider bringing it back to LRP. Because if we were to bring it back just as is, you would see that again immediately. So there has to be more work.
But they don't get any gamer gear, so
It doesn't matter. You could kill everyone on the station without gamer gear. You don't need gamer gear.
And like that's okay. Because
Yeah, but I don't want that. I want to step away from that thought process where you have to kill everyone because there's nothing else to Blood Brother. It's just some objectives.
We have security for a reason, right? They should be able to mess up two guys with no gear.
You say that. You really are saying that.
Oh, you're right.
I'm not flat out saying no. I just think there has to be more safeguards for Blood Brothers. There has to be more.
Policy threat would be my take on it.
Yeah.
Doesn't
That
this
seems
still apply to current traders though in Prog Tots? Because Ground Start Prog Tots are just as strong as Blood Brothers, if not more, because of the year that's allotted. to them.
Friendship is very powerful. Friendship very much turns fights around. Having someone who's automatically and forever on your side is quite powerful at round start. I have a lot less issues with like the issue of Blood Brothers meta boning. When I used to play on LRP way back when, I used to see them mostly get dunked when they tried, unless it was slow pop. But in general, I've seen a lot of community resentment against them, and I would want to know where the community as a whole stood on Blood Brothers before any attempt to bring them back. There is the middle ground where we can shift dynamic weights, so they're incredibly rare but present. But again, I'd want to see like at least the basics of what the community thinks and whether the community like thinks it's a good idea and wants to be friends with each other again and murder everyone, or whether it's like, oh dear, my blood brother is a miner and they got killed 4 minutes into the round by Bubblegum. What do now? Or my blood brother is gone AFK 10 minutes in, or my blood brother doesn't know what a toolbox is, or any of those kind of things that can just be, well, you're not really an antagonist anymore. You can't do your objectives, so you just either kill people or do what, and you don't have any tools or anything, and you're technically bound to your objectives even because you're a team man tag. So
I'm a masochist though when I like carrying around stupid people. That's just me though.
Physically
Uh,
lift your blood brother.
So
well,
true.
yeah, sometimes I've had to like pull around guys, and yeah, it was. I've had a lot of fun times with Blood Brother. It's probably one of my most remembered experiences.
Anyway, policy thread. Maybe people will like it.
Yeah, I'll put one up sometime. One more thing. What do you how do you guys rate the species? Like, what's your most liked, least liked? How
I
how
play
do
a
you guys-
felonid and a human. Not much more to say than that.
Conceptually or mechanically or both.
Conceptually, I'd say, because mechanics can change, and this isn't about coding. This is about policy. If you weren't aware.
There shouldn't be. Beyond name.
Plasma men are by far my least favorite species. In my experience, plasma men are 98% power gamers who just see the laundry lists of immunities they have and want to be immune to things while they fuck around in engineering and win their self-assigned engineering goals. And all the other species are good. I like them.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much agree with Spook on that.
Are you guys in consideration, like just looking at like other servers? Any cool species you see there that'd be like that wouldn't fit too? That would fit pretty good in our system.
I think we have all the ones we need.
That's good.
I'm going to raise it's probably a code issue, but it might become policy. I don't know. So someone's told me if it's a code issue. There's been some consideration of like making felonids into a general animalids type thing where you have the different options as they were originally intended to be, because they were originally intended to be like tattoo type things. They were proof of concept. That would be something that I'd be very interested in supporting, however would be necessary policy wise. Rather than the constant proposals of what if we had Vulpinids and fox people, or we had dog people. If that kind of thing, I'd be interested in seeing that all be merged into one species policy-wise, but it's probably a code issue.
I think we should probably just like bring back sewing ears onto people. Get rid of the whole species thing.
That's already a thing. You can already the DNA infuser. You can do that right now in the game.
You can become a fox
Yeah, but
person.
like I want to like cut someone's head open and put cat ears inside of them.
You can already do that.
Still do that. You can
The
do
one
that.
policy-wise, I'll actually go into that. I really like that felonids exist policy-wise as a way to play a human that gets murdered by the AI. I think that's a really nice spot to have, where you're a human but worse. I think that's a good spot to have a species. I really like that policy, so I wouldn't be in favor of anything that made felonids Asimov protected effectively. And sewing cat ears onto a human doesn't make it not a human by the old metric of scan them with a health analyzer. If it says human, they're human.
That's a real good point, Spooky.
As I said way back when, all of my felonid characters are felonids because I like having characters that get dunked by AIs. Several of them were humans, and they went, hang on, what if I could get murdered more often? And now they're felonids.
I just think they're cute.
Yeah, we have 2 Cackrel headpins right now, right?
I guess I play one.
Uh-huh.
Rave doesn't. Wait.
Rave is a lizard.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the that kind of stuff, but that's crazy. Look at that. Anyways, you guys failed. It was a trick question. Goodbye. You will not be getting elected next term. Sorry to tell you.
Good. Good. Free me.
It's true. Anyways, Jamarcus.
Right,
Hello,
testing,
Jamarcus.
testing. Everything's good?
I can hear you. Yep.
Bro, I listened to this entire thing while I was going to go get a pizza. I've been sitting in here for 40 minutes.
You should get a better. You should go to
Nah, that
the
pizza was
grocery
sick.
store.
Anyways,
Damn.
I wanted to cover this because a couple rounds that I've been playing, when my interactions with antagonists have been really lackluster, in the sense that either if I try to interact, like actually make something happen via RP, I'd usually just get gamered and immediately killed.
Are you talking about LRP or MRP? Sorry, I just wanna
MRPs.
clarify.
This is specifically
Damn.
on manual. This is what I've been having this.
And the prog talk is happening
It's-
again.
Wait, this was already covered? If it is, I don't want to talk about it then.
I mean, it's worth reiterating that like largely everybody's like skill levels are at different points and people are at different points of their space station story. So, there are people who think that immediately dunking on people is amazing and that everyone was trying their absolute hardest to win, when in reality, like, maybe one of the people's been playing the game for a long time and they're open to losing. And as a result, you know, you kind of shitpost a little bit. You're like, oh, oops, I left myself open. And, you know, you just kind of surrender yourself to the chaos of the round. Like, we can try our best to have like a good faith, like best foot forward situation. But at the end of the day, like, there's going to be some excitable like Andy who's like very new and thinks that this is their chance to like get it done, and they're going to hop all over you. And to an extent, you can like try and have like an help over that and just be like, hey, like, you know, do you think you could talk to them about maybe like thinking more next time they can find themselves in one of these situations? But like, to an extent, like, you know, how much do you want to like punish people for like enthusiasm, or how much do you want to punish people for like failing to kind of get it, which, you know, not everyone gets it immediately, or some people need it to be explained to them. That's just kind of how it is.
Okay, because my main concern was a couple of times that I've been playing, specifically the number one reason why I've been turned off quite a bit was I was with the security officer. Another security officer got obsessed. He ended up stunning me and choking me to death in the Lavaland shuttle. Like, for a full 5 minutes, I kept speaking, trying to get them to say something, anything, back to me, but they were dead silent the entire time. Then they threw me into lava and, you know, left. Like, nothing happened.
Yeah, for
when I
if that
a-helped
happened,
that, I literally said, "There's nothing I can do." That's what Shesh was the one that I talked to about. He said there was nothing I could do. It sucks, but that's it.
in my opinion, the ideal situation for that as a one-off like encounter is to help and be like, hey, like, I get that this isn't something that's like necessarily enforceable, but this was a real letdown. Then the admin would ideally reach out to that person and just be like, hey, like, you know, this could have gone different, right? Like, you know, we've got like an expectation of engagement here, right? And then hopefully that's just like a calm and peaceful interaction, and then we can have it like hopefully be better the next time.
Okay, Shesh, quickly, Shesh. Yes, they can. They can speak to their targets, because he did say at least "I'm sorry" before throwing me into the lava. That is false. He could say some things.
Were you dead by that point?
You can speak
Yeah, I
to your
was dead.
targets as a
No,
pet.
no,
I
I
got
was alive. I was in the middle of being choked before I passed out. He said one thing, "I'm sorry," after like 20 messages from myself saying like, "What's going on? Why are you doing this?" So on and so forth, trying to get something out of him.
Obsessed can speak to their targets.
And it
I've
was
rolled
only
success
after I
recently.
helped it and asked Shesh about this in the middle of it. So I mean, I guess I've just been having a massive issue with people jumping straight to mechanics before even giving RP a shot.
Yeah,
specifically on
it
manual.
sucks. It's the prisoner's dilemma, and it's an issue that's plaguing the whole situation. And I wish there was a really easy way to kind of communicate to everybody that, you know, if you play with peak mechanics in mind, you're ultimately short circuiting a lot of potential interactions, and that we really should all be trying to have a couple of moments before we seek to resolve things through any like mechanical pathway. But it's hard.
Okay, and another thing I wanted to ask: how much of a level am I allowed to turn a blind eye to? Let's say as I'm a security officer and I don't feel like dealing with like maybe someone stealing, so on. So let's say I would turn a blind eye. Is that, in a sense, wrong for me to do?
You cut out a little bit. What are you turning a blind eye to?
So let's say I'm like a sec officer and I see someone stealing or attacking someone, but I just in like how my character would react, so on and so forth, I would rather ignore it, or like maybe it's justified in my eyes and I just let it be. Is that technically wrong to play like that?
It can be, and it can also be the best way to play. It's very
Because I've gotten in
context
shit for
depending.
that, and I never understood why.
A lot of people don't like losing, and they'll blame security for doing anything that doesn't result in the highest given probability of security and the station at large, quote unquote, winning. Turning a blind eye to things can be really cool if you're making space for people to do like cool and interactive stuff. It's often like actively in the best interest in the round. It
Yeah,
can
but
also
obviously,
be
like, not to murder and stuff. But there
yeah,
should
it
be
can
like
also
a
be
fine
really
line where it's like,
shitty. It's not something we can really legislate because of how context dependent it is.
Yeah.
Especially when it's stuff like if it's your friends, I'd be a lot less like down with turning a blind eye because that can
Yeah.
very easily get like, oh, you're letting your friends pull shit you and let someone else pull is very bad. I'm just gonna say it outright. It's not good.
Mhm.
But
I
if
guess there's nothing
someone's
we could do about that either, too, right?
the only thing we can do about that is collectively as a community say this. Wow, this was cool. This was a security officer like trading chance at victory and increasing their chance of getting tongue to let something
Mhm.
cool happen.
Yeah.
Because again, we can't really legislate for, well, here's this incredibly fine line of what's best practice and what's worst practice, and turning a blind eye can be both. Like,
Okay.
try to let antags do cool stuff where possible,
But
but
don't let
remember,
them get away with a lot of
yeah, remember this, especially on MRP where like you're the first line of defense. A lot of people like feel they can't do anything if you're like still there. You're still doing stuff. You still have first dibs on your lane of security stuff to do.
Yeah.
But letting antags like write an interesting story is important. And
Okay.
try to discourage like community things where it's like, oh, the security officer wasn't playing optimally. They must be new and or bad, and or I hope they never play security again.
Yeah.
The other thing for MRP is something I like to encourage security officers to do is involve other people if you don't want to do stuff, like deputize people. It gets around
Mhm.
the issue of people feeling helpless. Like the rules say I can't do anything here and there's an antag doing something. If you don't want to get involved in something, just say, like if medical's being murdered, say, okay,
Yeah, give it like
paramedic, here's your deputy armband. Have fun.
Mhm. Okay, I see. I guess that's it for all the questions I have right now. Maybe if I have something else, but I gotta go to one. So,
Farewell.
Well, thanks for stopping by.
no problem. Rave, I'm sorry I missed some of your streams.
Oh, that's fine, man. You're always
All right,
welcome.
peace out.
Mate.
Okay, who's up next?
Shush.
Chesh.
All right, come again.
I'm
I
basically
cannot believe admin complained in a community meeting.
correct.
Renegade.
Just before we continue,
Yep.
I can basically go until everyone else gets bored. But to either of you guys have a specific
I
time
have
you need to
nothing.
stop?
I
Rafe?
usually start my stream in about an hour, but community meetings are pretty rare, so it's not like I have to go and do that. I can
We'll
always
probably
delay.
stop at 11ish then, assuming no one has anything relevant.
When
to
is
say.
11-ish?
11ish. What's like is it like an hour?
Like
In
an
an
hour
hour?
away.
It's like an hour. Okay.
Okay. If there's more people, then we can just go longer. Anyway, Chesh, go.
All right. So I had a few things I actually wanted to discuss. Namely, would you mind me bringing up the issue with oh God, I've got to say the issue with metagangs again.
Go
Namely, just
ahead.
bringing up a few talking points without any
In-
bringing up any specifics.
In what fresh new way?
In ways that I think people could benefit from hearing.
Well, if you're offering new content, shoot your
Sure.
shot.
So the issue with metagangs is that you can't just say like, "Hey, stop being friends," and "Hey, stop banning people," or "Hey, ban these people for hanging out and being friends." It's an issue when it becomes exclusionary, of course. That's literally all I had to say about it. And I actually want to bring up something real. As an admin, can I handle people administratively? And I mean, I have done it before, but like, is it supported to handle people administratively for taking an antag position and then doing literally nothing the entire round?
Yes.
Because
On
it's something
MRP.
that's
On
on
MRP.
MRP,
Yeah.
on MRP. Because on MRP, we've had I think a surge of someone will get someone will get an antagonist like Trader, and I'll check up on them maybe 2 hours into like a whole ass long ass low pop round, and they will have like 70 skipped. Or not 70, but they'll have a shitload of skipped objectives, and they will have done literally nothing aside from like their job normally. Like, is that like I'm allowed to like bonk people for that, right?
Cyber is also correct. Like, it's best to encourage people if possible. Like, we don't like to ban for RPR5
true.
if we can avoid it, unless it's something like, oh, you handed your uplink in at round start to security so they could buy cool stuff. That's completely out of the ballpark. But you
Okay.
can, as an LRP admin, roleplay rule 5. One of the things it demands is that people who roll for antagonists do make an attempt, like a reasonable good faith attempt to antagonize to make the round interesting. That doesn't have to mean
Yeah.
like being evil, but it means doing something other than just like sitting on it every time
Yeah.
you roll it. That doesn't also mean like if you are looking for a chance to do something and you never see it, and because you're new or you just haven't antagged in a while, or you just don't see an opportunity to do something interesting and you're looking for something,
Mhm.
like it's better to not ban, but you absolutely can say, hey, like I've just watched you this entire round. You didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I assume in the context of metagangs, you're saying that like they're like just hanging out with their friends all around.
Those are actually entirely separate
Okay, they're
thoughts.
separate. Cool, that's even
I have like a big list of like things like
yeah.
that I just
You
want
can
to talk about.
absolutely, as on MRP specifically on
Yeah.
LRP.
On LRP, they can do
Rule
whatever the
5
fuck they want.
go-
I don't care about that.
They can do
It's
whatever.
great. Rule 4.
But on MRP, yeah, you can encourage people to antagonize, and if people are just consistently taking antag rolls purely for the heck of
Mhm.
it, they're not actually doing anything with it. You can say, hey, if you're gonna just sit around all round consistently, can you either do something or stop taking the antag rolls? But
Okay.
as mentioned, the best way to do that is just to ask people to just, hey,
Yeah.
try something. You don't need to be successful. You don't need to be the best antagonist. You just need to make a good faith attempt to play to the sub role that you've assigned yourself for, or assign yourself
Okay.
up for. So if an antag like tries to steal something and fails and dies, that's fine. If they're just like engaging in petty theft constantly all around, that's still like antagonizing. They're still
Oh yeah,
doing
no.
something with it.
I would never have an issue with that. Like as long as they're just not, just sitting in their department and treating it like a normal round, never touching their uplink or never
Yeah.
pulling out the mantis or never, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the
again,
question
I have
was
I have seen rounds where it's like someone's just looking for an opportunity and then everything goes to shit immediately and they never get the option. Like that's fine. You're allowed to like be an opportunist. It's just when
Oh
that
yeah.
becomes consistent or it's very obvious they don't care.
Actually, opportunist was removed from the antag pool, so
I miss thieves.
nobody misses thieves.
I
But yeah,
miss
no, that
thieves.
question was mostly just somewhat from
Also,
my
yeah.
own context of understanding roleplay rule 5 and how I should be approaching it.
And Fiku is correct.
partially
Sometimes people just forget their antags, and you can get them to antagonize by being like, "Hey, dude, you're a traitor. Go cause problems." And they'll see
I've
the thing in the top left.
Yeah,
and go,
I mean,
"Holy
Fiku's
shit."
always right about everything constantly because he's Fiku, so it's expected. What else do I have to talk about? I just have like advertise the North Star written down like 30 more times here, so I think I'm just gonna leave.
All right, who's up next? That kind of Jack. You person. Wait, it didn't. Why did? Oh, there it
Hello.
is.
Sorry,
Hello,
yes,
Jack.
I was alt-tab playing Path of Exile. Don't worry about it.
Real.
Yeah. So I'm a big Silicon player, and I was playing recently, and there was a change to the murder bone rule on MRP, involving male functioning AIs and when they are allowed to go murder bone. Right? I'm sure you were both involved with that. Everyone here. I feel like that change didn't get very well communicated to the player base. I never heard about it until I created an A-help for something completely unrelated and ended up talking with Chesh, who was just on, and wanted to run a gimmick, and he mentioned, oh yeah, you don't even need that anymore. We've made a change. Is there anything we could be doing to help get that message out when there's a small change like that made to the players it would affect?
I think this is partially my fault because I think I fucked up the config when I was trying to set the MOTD. I'm not sure. Other than that, yes, I agree. We probably should have announced that better. People
Anything
do
else?
MOTD.
No, that was my big question, is just ways that you could kind of improve that communication system. Also, Love the fact that you play felinids. Love squishing you guys in airlocks. It's so much fun. Thank you.
Firelocks, my beloved.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's happened. Okay.
But yeah, I agree completely. That change should have been announced better. I meant to put it in the MOTD. It might even be there. I don't know. But if it's not there, then that's my fault. I broke something somewhere.
All right. Who's up next? It's Arcane. Hello, Arcane.
Hey everyone, local menace slash cuckoo brain arcane music here. Got a quick question for you. So we have in policy, I guess, or on config, we have a thing for, I guess, capping the number of rats that regal rats are able to create in a single round. Now, this is mostly related to that. More rats?
Rave,
Or
I know.
less rats, because I know that we recently added a new thing for AI controllers onto rats, regal rats, simple mob mice. Would that be an issue with adding more, or do we think that, can we handle more rats?
Have no strong
Rave, I know
feelings
your
one way
term
or another
increased the
on the
number.
rat issue.
Yeah, my last term increased the number of rats, and it seemed to be fine. Are rats decomposing into anthills in Maint still?
Yeah, they should, because on death, a rat will turn into a food item, and the food item will be decomposed.
Okay, well that needs to stop.
Oh.
That's my official stance on rats.
So if they were to stop decomposing, we could add more
Yeah.
rats.
Yeah, and that's a code-based thing.
All right,
yeah,
I
it's
feel like that's a reasonable trade. Expect my my PR in the mail tomorrow. All right, cool. Thank you for the insight. That's all I've got. Oh, and one last thing. I have been silenced. I'm not going to scream this time.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, who's up next? It is Trox again. Hello, Trox.
Testing, is this all right?
Yep.
All right. I actually have notes this time, so it should be a lot less rambly. Okay, so last time I joined, you said I couldn't talk about coding, but y'all just talked about the rats, which I'm pretty sure is like 99% coding.
The
We're talking
config.
about the rat.
It's a config.
So
okay.
explaining this, there are a bunch of server-sided config files that are preset by the code base. They are a specific subset of things in the game that would need specific code changes to add or remove from. But the things that are already there are in the control of the headmans. So that's things like the dynamic weights, what defines what dynamic will do when it rolls for one of its rule sets. Silent AIs, silent Borgs, whether security Borgs are allowed, what roles are protected from antagonists, what roles have main access. I believe security and assistant are main access are both configured, and a bunch of other specific settings that we can change or modify. Some things are part of config. We'll generally say if we're talking about configs in regards to policy and community meetings. Anything that's not on the config is something we can't control, but anything that's on the config or any question from a coder about something that they want to make config can come through policy discussion and can come through community meetings like this one.
All right. Thanks for clarification. That didn't know that. All right, so I'm gonna go on to. You've staved off my coding complaints for just a little bit longer. All right, so policy. What is your stances on, for example, if I play clown, I play like an absolute fucking idiot, right? And normally I will go along with like the most obvious bait for being kidnapped or being brainwashed. And for brainwashing specifically, the brainwashing can turn you into somewhat antagonistic behaviors. Like obviously no round removing and stuff, but it changes the way you play, right? So I wanted to ask, like, what's the policy on allowing yourself to be brainwashed if it's in an RP scenario, not just like going along with it, But if someone like tries to make an honest attempt to be like, "Hey, man, you should," like they try to convert you to their own ghetto cult,
So that's a part of what we're talking about when we say that you can bend a lot of the rules if you're like having interaction and having stuff going on. Like part of the whole idea, as you were just saying, like playing your character as an optimal version of yourself is a pretty like introductory stage of gameplay to be at. As you get further into the game and experience, you should feel more comfortable playing a flawed character, a character who doesn't know everything. And so to that extent, there's an amount of like winking and nudging over whether or not you know somebody's an antag and whether or not you're going to do anything about it. So we've definitely had people who have tried to do like an open like social cult situation, and you're only going to be able to have that if you're allowing people to sort of make those nudges and winks, as opposed to walking up to someone and saying, "Hey, I'm Antag, can I convert you?" Which is really far from the point. So
it.
yeah,
So
if you're willing to do the song and dance and like make it look interesting and make it sound interesting, ideally you can get away with that. I know I personally have done had psych antag rounds where I try to use like a hypno flash to like get stuff done
I love the hypno
without making it
flash.
explicitly into like you're just my little antag buddy now, or like go kill that guy, and like really try to like open it up to more chaos and stuff like that. So that's the other half of it too, especially for what you're talking about, which is like a hand rolled hypno flash antag rather than a cult or revs conversion. It really kind of comes down to how much interactions being done about it, how much is it adding to the round, by what means is it occurring. At least that's my take on it.
There's also an element that leads into it of what you do afterwards. If you're doing the thing where you're like, oh, I don't know what you're doing. I've never seen a hypno flash in my life. And then the moment you convert, you're like, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing. Power gaming time. I'm going to kill everyone I'm told to kill as quickly and efficiently as possible. That's a lot more leaning on the rules of like voluntary antag conversion. There's the more obvious it is that there is a dividing line between playing clueless and willingly being converted, if that makes sense. The standard I generally hold people to, you're allowed to act clueless up until something does someone that says, I'm about to convert you to an antag. So I think it's really cool to like follow someone into main if they're like, oh, I've got this cool thing to show you. But if they're like, okay, now I need you to stand on this white rune while me and my buddy with our funny knives stand next to you, I'm gonna be all concerned if you stand on that rune and then become a cultist and like, oh, I'm now gonna run over to these forges and make a sword and start killing everyone. It as Rafe said, it's a lot about like what's cool, what's interesting, what's interactive. Don't willingly be converted, but do walk into situations that like we all know you're about to be converted when you walk into that main room. But your character doesn't necessarily know that. But when the other guy pulls out the hypno flash, if they say, okay, now I need you to fall asleep for me, then I start to get a bit like,
What if you ask them to go to sleep before they pull up the hypno flash?
yeah, sure. If they say like,
Okay.
now we're gonna have
'Cause
like
that's how I played that.
a
I'm like,
guided
you need
dream
to
session,
relax.
yeah, then that's fine. That's the
Okay.
key to me. It's like with Borgs. If a human says, follow me into Maint Borg, I want to show you something cool, you follow them into Maint because you're a Borg and that's what you do. If they pull out an EMAG and say, okay, now follow me into Maint, and you go, oh yeah, this sounds like cool and interesting and not at all like all my laws are about to be subverted, then it becomes a problem. So absolutely play to interaction. If people are going out on a limb to interact with you, to offer you like cool options, rule one of improv, never say no, that kind of thing. But the line that I would draw is if someone is basically offering you conversion or doing something that it is blatantly in front of you, they just pulled out a hypno flash. They are now pointing at the offer rune for you to stand on. They've asked you to get on the thing, and you can see they are doing brainwashing. Though not everyone reads their surgery computers, and I generally don't because then I'd have to do something, and that's not cool. Then you should probably be like, hey, this doesn't seem right. You don't have to like attack them. You don't have to immediately run away. But the line to me is, are you being converted and do you know it? If your character knows they're being converted, that's like crossing the line into voluntary conversion into I want to be antag. As Rave said, if someone says you want to join my antag cult or you want antag or any of its equivalents, that's not cool. But again, if like someone says, okay, now the psych says, okay, now I need you to relax, like have a nap. We're trying to lucid dream, guys. And you say, okay, that sounds cool. And they convert you. That's cool. That's really cool to see something like that happening. So that's my take on it. Good faith above all. Because I've seen both sides. I've seen cultists who are like, that someone comes out and is like, hey, you want to join my cult? It's really cool. And they're like, yeah, sure, okay. And then they just get pulled into a side room and pointed an offer in. That's not
I
cool.
remember one time I was playing head of security, and there's a cult. They claimed an OC. The next round, they're trying to do a gimmick where they like opened up a shop and sold cult items as like trinkets. Unfortunately, my security allegedly valid hunted them before they could even get started. So I was unfortunate that I couldn't see that play out. But you know, sometimes you're just not in total control of your officers.
It's
All I
also
knew
with
is that
things
there's
like
a cult that had to be taken care of. You know.
it's also with things like cult that there is the very real reality that RP goes both ways. If an evil blood cult that I can see using magic that only comes from an evil deity that wants to eat me is selling cursed trinkets, I'd probably not be the most cool with that. Like sometimes it is the RP thing to play to the fact valid is a very bad way to put it. It is RP to play to the fact that an
Yeah.
antagonist is what they are, like, and can do cool gimmicks with cults. And I've seen people do cool gimmicks with cults, and I've played along with cool gimmicks with cults. But at the same time, there is also an element of everyone knows what you are, and
Okay.
everyone knows, like, because it goes the other way as well. One
So
cultist
everybody I see knows what a cult is and that they should be scared of it, basically.
yeah. I mean, to me as well, it goes into concealment and not even successful concealment so much as what's the word?
At least an attempt. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's not a rune. It's just decoration.
People
I
can
mean,
reasonably pretend, if that makes sense, to not thing. If you're not even meeting that standard, if people can see the evil magic flying around, yeah, they're probably going to be concerned. Especially since, again, one cultist can carry a cult. There are actually, like, even before we get into solo conversion, there are ways to outright summon Nasi as a single person.
There's, I think it's either MSO who said that, or it's a TGMC concept, where it's like you've heard stories, like you've heard descriptive stories about the cult, you've heard descriptive stories about wizards, but they're just stories, right? But you've heard stories to the point where where if you know what it is, I see it's because you've heard a story about it prior. Like, yeah, that's what it's one concept I've heard of once, and I thought I was like, okay, sure, that works.
Whether that should be tightened is something I'm considering for the MRP rule rewrite, but in general, all characters know I see what an antag is and what antags do. So they know both what a blood
it was
cult
in
is.
their video training when they signed up.
Yeah, they know what a blood cult is. They know what blood cults can do, and they know that the ultimate goal of every single blood cult, until that's changed, is to rend reality open and summon a demon blood god to eat everybody's souls. So you can
It's
go
like
out of your
Seinfeld.
way to do something else and do something interesting. And if that happens and people want to play along with it, that's always cool. But I don't hold people to the standard of, again, one cultist. Just as one Seki going nuts can get angry, one cultist going nuts can end the round on their own.
Like mandating like crew naivety is something that like HRP servers have done, and I've spoken with people who have invested a lot of time in those experiences, and generally it seems to fall along like lines similar to Fear RP, where it's like not something you would ever really want to force anybody to do because it ends up becoming like samey and repetitive in its own way, but now you're like having to add a whole other layer to it. So ultimately, it's about like keeping things fresh and interesting rather than saying that things have to be like all one way all of the time.
Naivety RP pretending to not know what's going on is really, really cool, and I love seeing it on MRP. People like pretending to not understand something or pretending to not know what an antag is so that people have more space for cool stuff is really cool. But when you start trying to mandate it, it stops being
Okay, so it's like a personal decision if you want to go with it or not.
yeah, and I've seen
it's a bit of a risk if you want to go that route, because I've had people try to lure me into mains and that's
Yeah.
also like a risk if you like. Do I just try talking to them instead of just sunbatoning them? You know?
Yeah. So I really like it as a personal choice. I really encourage people who are looking for like cool RP scenarios to like even not in the context of Antac, just pretending to be like, I'm a virologist. I don't know how chemistry works, or oh, I'm a medical doctor. I don't know how to do chemistry, or something along those lines. That can be really fun. But when you start mandating you don't know these things, it tends to punish people who play in good faith to the rules because they read, I'm not supposed to do this, so I won't, and encourage people who don't care about the rules to just do what they want because by and large, we can't monitor 60 people to see that every
Yeah.
single one of them is playing within the bounds of what they're supposed to know at all times,
I've
especially if they're
tried
not
reading
like
through logs
announcing.
before. It's hell. All
Sorry,
right,
what was
I
that?
have a few. I've tried reading through logs before for a round to see what happened. It's complete hell to actually comprehend it.
With practice,
I,
reading
Welcome to the
logs.
job. A lot of log reading.
True.
I only tried it once to see one very specific scenario why someone did something because it was like a long time after it happened. I just learned the logs were like public and online. All right, I have a few more questions.
We probably might cut it down to one just so other people get a chance, and then you can just go back to
Yeah,
Pete
okay.
if you got more.
All right. So one that I've thought about, but I've never actually wanted to try because I was scared about ICOC policy. But what is your opinion on asking, like, say I was playing like a tortured clown character that nobody liked, and I wanted to be that way? Could you ask people in OC, like, as the round starts, to just not be nice to your character, or just say, like, my character is valid if you want to kill them? Just don't round remove? I don't know, that's kind of a lot to ask, but
I that's kind of hard because then personally, it's kind of like that feels weird because you're sort of predetermining the course of a round. But there's instances where you predetermine the course of a round, like a Paint Club and whatever. Thinking about it, it's like I remember there's a clown character on Sybil, really prolific back in 2021 and 2020. What they would do is that they would spam Woody's Got Wood over Common. This was before you got instantly banned for it. And so what happened is, and then everyone would just go to the bar and beat him up every minute of every shift. The name was Cumbrain for that clown. So basically, that's their way of saying I'm valid at the start of a shift. But I don't know. I don't think it seems kind of ickaki, and it seems like there's a little bit too much meta information. I don't really know how I think about it.
For
My
myself,
opinion, and
let Rafe go first.
Looking at like precedent for it, which is what we have to do in a lot of edge case stuff, is that we've got examples of people who will like make plans to like meet up somewhere and do a gimmick because they think it's funny, like doing like a fight ring, and they're like theming it, and they're like not getting in anybody's face, but like there was an amount of planning ahead of time, like kind of a deal. And largely what we ask for in that regard is that people actually like do the frills of like interaction. So it's just like, are you and your friend, showing up because you want to spend all your day in the fight ring in dorms, like yelling and like shit posting it up? Fine. We would prefer if you would start your round by PDAing each other and like establishing that that's the plan rather than just going there wordlessly. On like a technical level, like, are you talking about a round that hasn't happened yet as opposed to talking about a round that is
I have
ongoing?
never tried. I have
Well,
never.
yeah, no, I'm just dealing in hypotheticals here. I'm just saying, like,
I thought you were about to ask
talking,
something else. My bad.
You're saying like, hey, like, I might roll my clown parentheses who sucks parentheses feel free to bully him, and then maybe you say like the name of your clown. Like, there's an amount of interaction that's going to happen like on the Discord, or on Discord, where people are going to like say like, yeah, I play a character like this and he's that way. Like, we can inform each other out of character. What a lot of ICOC protection is in regards to is like actively like spoiling or shaping like the progression of the round. Like, are you revealing antagonists? Are you revealing antagonist status? Like, that's been what most of the protection, like the common sense of the rule, has been for. So that's my thought on it, because ultimately it is hard to like gain like enough of the attention of the people around you to communicate a complex idea like that, such as like, you know, the meta expectation and theme of your character. And so, you know, I would say, just like off the cuff, in my opinion, you know, be careful, don't overdo it. So,
Okay,
yeah,
so if I just want to do it as a
those are my
one-time
words.
thing, it would be all right to see how it goes.
Possibly. I mean, I'd like to hear what Spook has to say about it.
Softly agreeing with Rave, I think it's okay to do stuff like say in OOC, like feel free to bully me, my character, X character name, whatever, before a round starts. Anything you could say in like a Discord with it, no the context of no round like occurring, like telling someone this character exists to be bullied, like feel free to be mean to them, or I prefer when people are mean to them because that's the point of the character. I don't see an issue with saying that before a round in OOC or after a round in OOC, but it's not something I'd want to see said mid-round. I wouldn't want like, oh, I'm the clown X. Feel free to bully me, or I'm X and bully me, or any of those equivalents. Establishing, as Rafe says, establishing a character is fine, and like what the expectations are for a character. But doing that mid-round is conveying information, as Banging Donk is kind of joking about. For one, it starts to run into the problem of what happens when people say things like, I am X, be mean to me, and they're not actually X, that X is someone else in the round. And that's something I definitely want to avoid. And additionally, I'd like to raise, I'm really not a fan of things like, feel free to kill me in the first 10 minutes, because that's often a sign of anteg rolling. But other than that,
that's not good faith.
yeah. You can let people kill you if you want, but you should be engaging with rounds, not like, yeah, kill me in the first 10 minutes, so if I don't get an antag, I can go do something else. That kind of thing. But establishing character expectations, I mean, I've done it. Hope exists to be bullied, that's her purpose. And I tell people that whenever given the option. But keep it out of, as someone said in chat earlier, there can't be OOC and IC if there's no IC. But once there is IC, it is OOC and IC. But just talking about it for a round or after a round where there's nothing to spoil, I don't see a problem with establishing this clown sucks, be mean to them.
Alright. Alright, I'll let someone else talk now. I still have a few more questions, but I'll do that later if there's time.
All right, who's on next?
It's oranges.
Yeah. A lot of repeats coming around, but there's a few new people, so we'll just keep going. Hello, oranges.
That's because you're very intimidating, Sam. Don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Should call it the Sansplaining meeting hall.
Oh, fine.
My question is, I don't actually know. Someone might have answered this earlier, but I didn't listen. So, what's your view on potentially enforcing the chain of command at an admin level to make heads more impactful and fun to play? Because I have thought that it would be a good change in the past, and I'm afraid that any of the code changes we might make to achieve the same thing would be kind of crazy.
Is this in general? I assume it's in general based on your position. Yeah. I am partially interested in it. I don't think it's something that would work if the community's not interested in it. That's why a couple people pointed out there's a pop-up that I'm trying to get working on, like what the community wants. Not in the sense of like what they want heads to do, but what they want out of heads conceptually. That the old adage that players are really good at identifying what's wrong and not identifying solutions to it. So I just kind of want to know, like, do people want heads to be more involved or not, or if they just want things that are like the bigger medical doctor that you can play if you've played enough MD. But in general, I am in favor of making heads more involved, making them more more enforceable as the heads of staff. I'm not really in favor of something like you disagree with your head, so you get job banned. But stuff like there was more options for demoting their departmental members with the full backing of that you can't escalate against a head demoting you. The expectation that you should at least listen to your head of staff if you want to keep your job. There was speaking of code, since you're the head coder, there was a proposal a while back that departmental demotions should be remote. So you can't just like run away from your head of staff and keep your access to do what you want. That's not something I would necessarily be opposed to, even if just as a test. I'm interested in seeing heads be more involved, but I'm not too invested in you didn't listen to your head of staff, so you get job banned now. Because much as I think heads should have a minimum standard, I do think heads not knowing as much as their underlings, or heads like having gaps in knowledge or not being fully competent in all areas of their department is good gameplay. And I wouldn't want to make it that you must agree with the person that is wrong, or be punished OOC. But I don't have a problem with you must agree with the person who is wrong, or you're an assistant now, so now you have to look at other ways to engage with the round and deal with the fact that this person who has power over you is wrong, or there are other things you need to do to keep the round going or to keep yourself alive, or the CE doesn't know what emitters do to blobs or whatever, and they want you to do something and you're trying to kill a blob and they demote you, so now you have to do something else to get around that. That's something I wouldn't mind seeing, that kind of enforcement of IC power over OOC power, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. That's a pretty comprehensive answer. It's along the lines of what I was thinking, right? Just having the admin backing for when you demote people, so they don't come in and grief you.
In
later.
theory, that already, I believe that's already in theory it's something that exists. Like if you have a valid reason to demote someone, they're not allowed to escalate back. But as mentioned with the remote demotion, demoting someone can often be like a time-intensive endeavor. Even if you're a head of staff running around with your baton, even if the demotion's valid, which is something that can occasionally be poorly like communicated, they can just run. They're not allowed to escalate against you, but they can just run. So you're now having to chase someone who has access to everything that's on their card. You've got to beat them up, take their ID, take it back, put it in the thing, demote them, then give it back. And even if everything is occurring as enforced by ROC, you can't escalate against heads for demoting you if they've got a valid reason. That's a lot of time and effort that goes against that. I wouldn't mind seeing that be changed.
Sounds good. Also, we should ban people who have more assistant playtime than head playtime.
I know, I'm banned.
Wow.
I'm gone.
I think my most playtime is either in AI or I think it's in AI, so I might be okay.
I think mine is assistant, but I think I have like 200 something hours on CLM.
Damn. That's fucked. All right. Anything else, Marcus?
And do you guys have anything about heads of staff? Big
I
policy bus.
I agreed with pretty much everything you said. I don't know anything.
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Okay. Oranges?
Yeah.
Is that it?
I love you.
Yeah, I know you've been drinking that whiskey. All right. Who's up next?
It's Pumpkino.
Yay.
Pumpkino.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I have a question because I realized while I was listening that I don't think we have a actual ruling on whether or not it's power gaming to take the antique round start as captain. I've had a unpleasant interaction where I had to help it, and admin just gonna leave unfettered told me that there's not really a rule against that, and that they're allowed to take it, and it's not power gaming. Do you guys have anything to say about on MRP?
MRP, good for you.
My general take is I really think it's a really bad look as captain. I tend to see it as a negative trait if you do it consistently as captain players to take the antique round start. But I don't think I'm leery about it because I don't want to make it into an absolute tell that someone is an antag if they take the antique out early. I don't want it to be the antique is out, therefore, like, the acting captain is an antagonist, or in any situation where it's like something is OOC wrong here because the captain can't do that. So I tend to view it as it's something that makes me keep an eye on people because I think it's like if you do it consistently, it's very much towing the line unless it's like war ups or whatever. War ups, anything goes.
Right.
But I don't think it's like a single instance is power gaming because I don't want to set that OOC precedent that the captain can't touch their own antique.
That's
It's
really
it's
good
not
to
their
know.
antique. It's mechanically informed that it's not their antique, and it's been that way
Because
for a
you can't
while.
swipe the card on it and you have to break it. It's company property.
It's on loan from CENTCOM.
Yeah.
So I think personally it's subject to pretty much all other power
Admin
gaming
boofery.
on MRP stuff where it's not dramatic to wake up, yawn, walk over to the antique gun display case, break it open, and take the gun. It's more dramatic to during a red alert, like freak out and run over there and smash the glass and get the gun. It's one of those situations where you're leaving yourself open to how the round's going to develop. Like maybe there's a chance that somebody else takes the gun. Like that's an exciting development. Maybe you don't get there in time. Maybe you're not constantly always at max power and fully protected from anything happening to you.
That's really good
Also,
to know.
as people are saying in chat, you spawn with a sword that is on you. Like you don't need to immediately walk over and break the case for the gun.
Yeah, that's good to know because I know that me and a few other admins have kind of treated it as oh, they did that, quick boink them and note them. So it's good to know, have some sort of ruling of a sense on that idea.
To clarify, my stance on it is probably that if one person is doing it consistently, then it's power gaming. If they do it like once every 2 months or whatever, if it's like occasionally the captain decides they want to have their antique out because it's a cool fucking gun, and CENTCOM wouldn't have left it in their room if it's cool, fuck CENTCOM, then I don't mind because again I don't want that OOC antique is out. It's either war ops or something is wrong with the captain. But I do think consistently going, I want the funny gun every round. That's why I play captain. As Rafe says, it's really bad for the MRP environment, and it's not something I want to see every round. So I would consider consistent behavior in that vein to be actionable power gaming, but I wouldn't consider someone doing it once actionable power gaming, if that makes sense.
Sweet.
But the others may disagree.
Good to hear. All right. Well, I'll try and I'll think of that in the future, and because I know that a lot of other admins have had the same kind of mindset of it's power gaming, it shouldn't happen at all. So thank you so much for that. In the interest of letting other people speak, that's all I've got to say.
Yeah. All right, who's up next?
Timber time.
It's Timber Pose.
All right. Get on, Steve. Hello, Timber.
Yo, great meeting so far. It's been really interesting listening to a bunch of the answers. So I'll just dive straight in. It's basically a two-parter question. So the first one is, what lessons have been learned over the past year with the rollout of the streaming program on MRP? So as a sort of a rough prompt, thinking administratively, how have the admins handled it? How has it impacted gameplay, and how have the players handled it? And then the second part to that question is, does the team think it could work on LRP?
All right. Well, if you guys are really ready for it, when I tried to start getting things discussed and making things happen with LRP or with streaming, a lot of people had assumptions based on like their experience of streaming and their knowledge of it, and they assumed that we were going to be like having tomato tide or whatever, and that it was just going to immediately be this magnet, and we were going to get flooded with shitters, and it was going to ruin our culture, and this is the worst, and so on and so forth. And ultimately, while it hasn't turned out like that, there's also like a grain of that where we think that we're pretty great and like worth doing that to, like worth having that happen to us, that we have to protect ourselves and our quality from just getting like swarmed and mugged by the popular kids. And in the experience that we've done with streaming so far, like it's been going on for a year, and I think the number of people who have applied to stream is under 10. Of the people who have applied to stream, some of them have said that they specifically want to do LRP, or that they've tried MRP and it doesn't provide like the level of activity that they want to provide for their audience, and so they're going to wait for LRP to become available. And even with that, the amount of streaming that's happening regularly is like pretty much like I'm streaming weekly. I don't think I've seen too many other people stream that regularly. A lot of streamers, once they get big enough with SS13, tend to make their own servers and do things their own way. So it's all a little disappointing to find out that, you know, we do continue to be a niche game, and that ultimately there are like going to be like challenges with getting like any attention towards us, which has been a part of like why I pushed for streaming very hard in the first place. Is I think that we need to be open to every avenue of media sharing, that ultimately if we have another like big Seth Tide or anything like that, if we don't have ourselves open to streaming, we could potentially get passed up by other communities who are, and have those sorts of like systems built and in place. And so I think it's all still kind of just like moving forward. The results just came in. If you guys all go over to Newsbus and give that a look, like the player base wants streaming on LRP to a sizable extent. I think it's like over 100 votes over not wanting it, or something to that extent. And we've got an admin majority on it as well. This doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it's going to go, because we do have to like confer about it in private, and make our decision from there. We haven't had any big like scandalous issues pop up with the streaming program so far. Streamers who have participated are usually pretty good about telling people that they shouldn't be playing, you know, and watching the stream. No one's been stream sniping. So to an extent, we haven't really been tested in terms of what sort of issues could occur, especially as the program scales, which it might be doing if we do decide to allow streaming on LRP. I personally think that it's something that we're probably going to have to revisit before the term's over if we do decide to allow it, because it might not have the staffing support that we need for it. The amount of overhead or like issue it could create might be significant, but it still kind of comes down to one of those, you know, don't know unless you try sorts of situations. And ultimately, if we are going to participate in like the larger SS13 community, we do need to have content creation from members within the community. And not everybody can learn from watching you know, Texicus videos. Like some people need to have a friend show it to them. Some people just want to like hop on and watch someone play it and ask questions as they come up. And I've had a couple of people get into the game from just like running into my stream. So it's definitely possible, and I think worthwhile for the people who learn better in that way. And I think that's largely what I got to say about it. Any questions? Anything that I didn't cover?
No, it's a comprehensive answer. If the
Oh,
other
hold
two,
on. Hold on. I can't hear you. Give me 1 second. All right, now go.
yeah, it was a comprehensive answer. So I can say it's self-evident that a lot of time and thought has gone into it, and a lot of introspection on how it's worked and how it's rolled out so far. If the other two headmans have any opinions or thoughts on it at all, I'd love to hear a sort of a more varied spread. But other than that, you single-handedly you've answered it all for me.
I
Oh, thank you.
can pop in if you want, but for the most part, I'm a lot less involved in the streaming thing. I just play in MRP, where the streaming is.
Yeah,
I haven't
it's
noticed any of the problems that were expected to possibly show up with streaming of like the secondhand Metacom type stuff or the stream sniping. I do have concerns with the lower expectations of LRP, but with the poll, I think it's definitely worth trying. That's my opinion. That may not go through as we see on LRP. The community is evidently very interested in it from the poll, and I think it's worth a shot at this point. The streaming seems to have, at worst, been like not a problem, and at best been actively introducing people to the game through cool sources and spreading it out a bit more. So
yeah, wonderful. And for Sans specifically, you obviously won't have sort of the experience of how it's rolled out and worked on MRP, but just in sort of your own opinion and viewpoint from your own sort of life experiences, do you think it could work well on LRP as well?
Worth a shot.
Sounds good to me. Well, that's everything answered. So thanks a lot, and good work on the meeting so far. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
All right, who's up next? It's Stereo. Oh, we got Stereo.
Yo, we back. So, oh, fuck off. I'm not. Well, yeah, no, I am loud. Just turn me down. I don't give a fuck. The general direction of TG Station. Are you guys happy with it in your current position? Things going great.
Nothing much has changed, so I'm
still
okay
fun.
with it.
There's some
In
code
relation-
issues I disagree with, but there's always code issues everyone disagrees with. Like that's the nature of open source. And there's the things I've been wrong about in code, and there's things other people have been wrong about in code. But in general, I'm happy.
In relation to some of the goals that you set for yourselves when you started the Headman term, how are things going that way? Is it like sluggish? It's just like, you're not going to really see results because it's just so slow. 6 months. Give me that time.
The lights are still on, but there's more policy to handle. As I mentioned several questions back, like an hour and a bit ago, I need to work on getting another big policy doc up so we can do another mass resolve of policy threads. But lights are still on. The servers haven't burned down. Post vote happy.
Rave, maybe you have some words?
Yeah, in my experience of this term, coming into a situation where, as I was saying earlier, I've got two teammates who are having their first headman term and have expectations and have like plans that they've made. For the first 3 months, I've largely just really wanted them to like have the freedom to sort of do their own thing, and I haven't been in a rush to get any of my stuff established because I almost feel to an extent that might like not quite like taking advantage of, but it just doesn't feel fair to like have people who are excited to do their own thing and then like bog them down with like my machinations that stem from my experience. So for me personally, after New Year's rolls around, I'm really gonna step it up for the last half of the term because I feel that by the time I reached January during my first term, I was more or less up to speed on the whole situation. And I would hope that my teammates also feel that they've gotten the hang of it by now, and we can really kind of just like drill down and get some like really nice workflows and stuff going for it.
It has been over a week since Spook killed a server with a misplaced dynamic config.
Huge, amazing. Any sneak peeks into what those future ambitions would look like that you want to spill to the crowd?
Look at policy discussion.
No.
And then imagine.
I'm also keeping an eye on reports of like what people are getting out of dynamic, and I've been making small changes to dynamic configs as reports come in about what people are enjoying, what people aren't enjoying, and how common people perceive antags are and whether they think that's fun or not. I don't tend to announce those. Something Moshblocks advised me is that it's very easy for people to react to dynamic changes based on what they think the change is, not based on what the actual like effect on the round is. Dynamic is a very noisy system. Changing dynamic weights often has a lot less impact than people expect, and occasionally has a lot more impact than people expect. So it's been a few weeks, so I'm comfortable saying, for instance, I've turned down the rate of the mid-round rev antag provocateur on several of the servers. And that's had an impact as I understand it, but it's had a lot less of an impact than you'd actually think based on the raw numbers of the dynamic config, which is part of the reason that wasn't announced and why I won't be announcing what the actual change in numbers was. It's because I'm looking for end result, opinions of the end result, not opinions of like, oh, Provo is now 1/6 as common. It isn't. I'm telling that now. There's not enough Provos, or Provo needs to go down even more because I don't think this number sounds high enough based on the fact I really hate provocateurs. No Karsh, I will not. But that is something I'm keeping an eye on, dynamic changes on a lot of the servers as things get reported to me about what people are enjoying and aren't enjoying.
So in some ways, you want to keep that future plan closer to the chest, still thinking on it. Don't want people to freak out.
In general, if you've got anything to say about dynamics, say it to me and I'll keep it in mind. I try to keep like an open thing.
We should have less rats.
Thank you for sharing your rat opinion.
Rats, we're not the rats. I hate rats. But yeah, I'm happy to announce that I'm making changes, but generally not what the changes are, at least immediately after I make them, just so that there's time for those changes to actually see effect before I see feedback on what people think the changes are. Especially since within like 6 rounds of the day of a change being made, you're not going to see any real difference with how noisy dynamic is.
Cool. I don't know if Rave has anything or if
Yeah,
Spook covered most.
My plans that I've mostly talked about, pacifism bans / quirk bans, like growing, galvanizing the streaming program to just make sure it's sturdy and that we can have that kind of port open. One thing that I've kind of kicked around as an idea, but I haven't like talked about as much publicly. Who here remembers Seth Tide?
Not a fucking clue. I came here in like mid 2021.
Fantastic.
I'm Seth Tider.
All right, so like at one point we had like such an influx of new people that not only was it like clogging our servers, but it was like also just generally causing issue. So we opened up Event Hall and we just told people to go there. And as a result, a bunch of people more or less had to develop like their own culture separate from the rest of the community. And this was ultimately, I think, like problematic. Like fuzzy logic, Carl Jowers like basically got host vote because he was the only admin who would be willing to admin events, Event Hall. And he described it as like holding a fire hose to a dumpster fire, like 24/7. So having an optimistic view on the future where one day another tide rolls in, I think we need to take some sort of step to provide people with a little bit of a limiter so that the number of active newbies in a round isn't so overwhelming that the experienced like regulars of the crew of the community can't like
make up for
have
that
majority
deficiency.
and like teach them and like give them opportunities to learn. Because if you got like 20 people and then 60 newbies flood in, you know, like I think there's the whole the day the internet died or whatever, that was like way back in the 90s. But it was when people found out that they could post on message boards and shit, and it just ruined everything. Like I think we need to have some sort of like newbie cap that makes new players observe if too many new players are already in the round, just so that people have to like sit down and like learn about the culture that we have rather than just kind of steamrolling over the whole experience. But I've suggested this and had some contentious responses to it, so this might not be a good idea, and it might not be something that ever happens because we are a very like open gate kind of community, and the idea of like limiting anybody's like new experience is like unpalatable. But on the other hand, assuming that a large amount of people could come in, what would be the best way to handle that, and like what can we do to prepare for it is more or less what I think about. So that's me. That's what's on my mind for Hedman plans.
Very, very cool. I really sorry, my brain just went away. I
have that effect on people.
I have that effect on myself as well. San, anything you want to say? You're
No,
pretty
not
silent.
much.
All right, owned. I'm gonna go walk my dogs, eat some food. If you guys just want to leave me here, I don't mind being an intimidating, awesome
Yeah, that's classic. Anyways, I'm thinking, should we just like close out people raising their hands and then just like go through the enemy
Yeah,
queue?
sure. This can be the last few.
All right. I turned off requests, so it's last 4. All right, who's up? Yo, bro, Charlie. Hello, the Yo, bro, Charlie.
Hello. Space loot, gateway loot, what to do, policy about it. Personally, I've had lots of trouble with it. I don't disagree with any of the rulings of any admins. I do not. The rulings of different admins have been wildly different with their opinion on it, what to do with it, if you should even be able to return to the station at all after going out to space, and that kind of stuff.
This is an MRP question, though.
Yeah.
Or LRP. I don't know the difference.
It's irrelevant on LRP. There are no rules.
LRP gets to do whatever it wants.
That's funny.
On MRP, it's the general gist that we stick to is if you're becoming a problem for the server, then you get told to cut it out with the power gaming of space and gateways and ways of acquiring. I mean, even Lavaland to a certain degree, though miners generally get a pass to play their jobs. But if you're going out of your way to collect stuff that makes you more powerful, then make use of it in ways that are deleterious to round the story of the round and like how we want MRP to play. We tell people to dial it back. If they don't dial it back, then they get locked out of it. But
Well, there is no real role to do this stuff. There is no real role in order to go out into space and get all the
Most of our
loot.
space bans have been informal things that we put down as notes. And so when those people have an issue that involves space, we can look up and see that like we've told them not to go out to space. And I get that that's like, you know, not mechanically enforced, but you can get job banned and go to the hop and still get your job changed to that job. So like a lot of bans after a fashion are not mechanically enforced. I've always been of the position personally that it's not so much about what you've acquired as it is what you do with it. And I think that like in recent times we're sort of starting to move a little bit further away from that, where we're really questioning about the kinds of loadouts that people have that they're running around with. But I think those loadouts only come up because we've seen these people make themselves like completely invulnerable to like any real threat, and without even like threats, you know, showing up and occurring. So to put it in a really like simple, straightforward way, like if you're really intent on going out and getting all of the space loot, really think about how much you're making use of it to your advantage or to like the routing of an antagonist, and like wonder about how less often you could do it. like really consider, especially if like you're getting like a strong admin response, try doing it half as often, just as like a good starting place rule of thumb situation. If every other time you thought you might do it, you just don't, like I think you might see that you aren't running afoul of like expectations as often.
Okay, I have one also thing regarding one specific space loot item. Well, actually 3, I guess. The top secret syndicate files, the syndicate black box, and Hilbert's Hotel. The 2 syndicate things fall under their own thing of how the admin should interact with the player if they use the comms console to try and bargain with CENTCOM or syndicate command for them. But Hilbert's Hotel is something else I'll get into in a minute.
There's no admin requirement that they accept that you found some space loot and trade it for anything. That's not like, if they want to, they can go for it, but I'm not going to make anybody do that personally.
Well, I mean, like, not any enforcement, but like, what would be the ideal scenario?
The ideal scenario is whatever the admin wants.
Whatever's most interesting, and things become very quickly uninteresting, especially for admins when it's like constant. And space loot's weird because it tends to kill people who are new that are looking for it, but it tends to become trivially easy for people who know what they're doing to just accrue all of it very rapidly. There's no one to stop them. There's nothing that can realistically stop them. So
that is very true.
And keep in mind, if like certain spacesuit just gets abused to hell and back, it can be turned off in the config.
That's part of the reason why on MRP we tend to go for asking people to cut it out, especially when people have histories of valid hunting or leaning on other MRP rules before we start taking other action, because space is really cool. The gateway's really cool. It's really cool when new players get to interact with those systems and go out and go, what the hell is this? I've never seen this before. It's not, most of them aren't like documented like fully anywhere unless you start pulling game files apart and opening them up in map editors. So there's a lot of space there for new players to like interact with systems that aren't fully spelled out in ways that let them have that thrill of discovery. So I'm really loath to turn anything off. So when the nails start sticking out on space loot, I tend to very much agree that they should be pulled out rather than break apart the wood, as it were. That was a bad analogy, but it works.
Personally, I have always wished for space loot, space ruins to be 50 times harder than they are. They are all trivially easy if you know what you're doing.
It's an issue of mapping and code base.
It's also because, again, the ones we already have, a lot of them kill new players already. So it's hard to make in a game like SS13 scaling difficulty, if it were. The other thing I'd always recommend as well is that if you're on MRP and you're annoyed that you keep getting boinked for valid hunting, or you keep getting like told to cut things out for power gaming, go play on LRP. Like, there's no rules against that there.
Okay, I have just gotten a thing from Jammer from a community meeting. If you want to kill the paper wizard, you need to do 2 things. Bolt open the first 2 doors and wait 50 minutes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's definitely something you can talk about in chat. I want to follow up on that space ruins thing real quick for a soapbox. Back to Orange's original question. Here's the thing about space loot and space that people need to get. Space is supposed to be fully random, like Lava Land, in terms of swapping out ruins for other ruins. We do not have enough ruins submitted to space in order for space to truly have things drop in and drop out. And as a result, all the space loot is grindable every time. It shouldn't be. Please add space ruins. Do not make them powerful. Make them shitty. Make them places that just exploded. Have like lore and depressing stories of people being stranded and eating all their food and fucking dying. Like, do not put anything like really powerful in it. Just make a story, tell it in a scene. I'm sure people around here have played like Fallout 3 or New Vegas. Like, you know when a set is a story. Make story sets, submit them for space ruins, and space will be like 1,000 times better.
Even something as simple as like there's a bit of ruined space station in space that's covered in gibs and open to alien eggs and alien weeds. Like, that's a story in itself. Oh fuck, these people got eaten by Xenos. Like, it doesn't need to reward you with anything. It doesn't need to have the Xenos to kill you.
Yeah, I've always liked those kind of runes. The runes that kind of tell a story in what they are. I've always found, like, kind of looking at them to be quite entertaining. But, I mean, after looking at it for the 50th time, it just kind of gets stale. I do wish that there's more runes. But, is there anything else?
We'll move on to the next.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's Hilbert's Hotel. Hilbert's Hotel? Oh my god, it needs so much rework. There's so much broken about it. One
Great issue.
cultist can go in there and summon Narcy. There's jack shit anybody can do to stop them. Literally
That
nothing.
unfortunately
Code
is
issue.
is a code issue.
Also a bug because you're not meant to be able to put the Narcy rune in there. It's not a valid space for it. But code issue.
But also, you can break into CENTCOM from Hilbert's Hotel using the launch pad and setting the Y level up to and launching yourself.
I would
Also-
love to hear more about that after the meeting.
Also code issue and also an exploit that you'll be banned for.
Hmm?
Right.
Oh, I've done it on a private
Yeah,
server,
yeah, as
never
in
on
people who
official
do
one.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't
Going
do
to
that.
CENTCOM is always an exploit. You can do it once to prove that it works and then like a help or whatever, but if you're actually just breaking into CENTCOM, it's a bannable exploit. Right. We're running out of time, so I will move on to the next person. And Seth is back.
Hello, Seth. I think we spoke about this earlier in the meeting. It was like we found out dynamic JSON could do it, but
I don't know about the others. My primary focus is on MRP because that's where I tend to play. So I don't know as much about LRP, but I'm still very much in favor of playing with a protected status of heads on MRP. Whether that comes down to reducing the number of antags they can roll, like making it so they can only roll like changeling, heretics, not traders, or only changelings, only conversion antags like cult and changelings, that kind of thing. I'm still very interested in that, but I can't talk for the others.
okay. Last two. We got Fren. Hello, Fren.
Hi, thanks for having me. So, I think it's really great to have this, like community meeting tradition. I'd just like to remind that the one before last previous Headman team, that was 3, maybe 4 years ago, made a promise to the player base. And you don't have a responsibility to uphold it, of course, but I think it's important to talk about it community-wise. And that was, I believe, Citrus Gender's time when he promised to play D&D with me 4 years ago, and he never did it. How come? And what are you gonna do about it to make him play D&D with me?
That's a really good question. Who's up next? Demarcus.
Well, mean.
Hello,
Let him
Demarcus.
last again. Hey guys, what's going on, chat? Anyways, I did.
Why is it
I was
always
thinking-
you?
Because I'm just that fucking.
Because he raises his hand last. It's
Because I
they
think about
game
my
it.
questions. Okay, so I wanted to talk to. I was thinking about the metagang stuff and so on, how people can't communicate. When I've been playing, I've never had an issue with that at all. And I was thinking about it, and I wondered why. And I think I know why now. The biggest issue with people is that a lot of people are too scared to actively go up and talk to other people. They're like the fear of being completely rejected. Shut up, Karsh. I'm not right now. But that's what I mean. Like, people are too scared to go up and actively talk to people. Is there any, like, there's not much we can actually do about that. But so this is a message to everybody. Who cares at all whether you're friends with someone or not? Just go up and talk to people. There's no issue. Even if it's like asking someone like, hey, cool, nice hair, or so on and so forth. Just you have to start a conversation just to actually, have social interaction. It's like making actual friends. It's literally that. There's no real such thing as a meta gang, as it's literally related to real life. Just talk to people. It's not that difficult to break up a meta gang. Now, when it comes to people,
Our entire community has a severe social skill issue is the problem, but you don't get better at things without practice.
Is there a question aspect to this, or are you just speaking? I just want to know.
wanted
I don't.
say- I did want to just say that to chat. I think the only other question I would have is,
Mhm.
what is the main policy if people like? How do you confirm suspicion of people like metaganging items to each other?
Like what? Like meta?
So
Could you
they,
repeat
like,
that?
You know how people have meta friends, so or like meta, like they have meta gangs, like between like 3 different felons, just always together. Let's say one of them's a paramedic, another one's a security officer, and let's say that the paramedic's a bad example. We'll say engineer and security officer, and
Okay.
almost always this engineer is always let into security to talk with the meta friend's security officer
That's
all the time, and that can cause a
that's-
lot of issues.
What
How do
issue?
you
Rule
solve
2
that?
issue. I mean, that's a Rule 2
If,
issue.
if they break rule 2, then yeah, it's an issue. But if they're not breaking rule 2, because the thing is that
Okay.
you still want interdepartmental cooperation. That's still a goal of the game.
Yeah, but
So-
I don't want it to be like everybody's in like, let's say they actively will let people into like even if they have no reason to, just
Yeah,
because
it's a Rule 2 issue. If you're
Okay.
giving your friends benefits because they're your friend and for no other reason, that's a Rule 2 issue. That includes giving them access, giving them items that they wouldn't have otherwise without good reason. Anything
I
of that
appreciate
type.
helping it.
And
But
stuff
the
like
thing
items,
is,
we just
how
write
do
to
you
check
tell?
contents.
There should
Well,
be a
keep an eye
discrete
on
issue,
things.
like if they're friends, but like the station engineer has tools and the security officer's like, "Hey, can you fix this door?"
Yeah,
And
that's fine.
they're friends. Like if there's a discrete reason, that okay, fine, whatever. That doesn't break rule 2, in my opinion. Or
With a
it
lot of
shouldn't.
these things, we just keep an eye on things. It's not really an issue if you're like friends with someone you occasionally like let them in to have a chat. It's an issue if it becomes consistent or noticeable.
Yeah.
If it's not
I'm fine
noticeable,
with, like-
then it's not a problem for the most part.
Like for more social areas like medical bay or something like that, like maybe 1 or 2 people hanging around, that's fine. But I'm talking stuff like more secure areas like the bridge or like maybe not like office.
People-
like
Hey, help.
very
Yeah,
more
it's
We
not
keep an
like
eye on
a-
things, and if you're
shouldn't
doing
be.
things like letting people in silently because they're your friends and you're not doing
Yeah,
it for other
that type of
people,
thing.
then that's something we can notice. Other than
Okay.
that, like, there's no real way we can like code a bot that says, "Oh, the engineer was
Well,
led into
obviously, yeah.
the brig, ban he, ban the entire security force for metagang."
So I guess it's kind of up to the players to notice it and then help.
But it's
in a
also
sense.
we do watch rounds where we're adminning. But
Yeah,
again, a lot of the
obviously.
things like this, if it's not noticeable, like it can become a problem, but generally it's not a problem unless it's noticeable because again, people should be friends.
Yeah.
Having friends is not a bad thing, and it's not something we want to punish.
Mhm. Okay.
Anyway, we're now 20 minutes over time, so we shall cut it off here, I think.
All right.
Do we have
So
anything we want to close with? Let me know if the poll that's up on the servers now about heads of staff is broken, because I think I fixed it. Question mark. But it's probably still broken. So if it's still broken, like one person let me know, and I'd rather not have 60 pings, but someone let me know, and I will poke it
I'm
again.
going to re-enable embeds for a short amount of time as we close out the meeting. So get those funny images out while you want.
Gavel spamming.
Oh, dang, that sucks. Unfortunate. Rave, did you have anything?
I'm good.
All right.
Oh,
I don't have.
make a forum account, post on the forums, make a GitHub, learn to code in Dreammaker, fucking
Should
do
put 'em
a
on the-
PR, like engage the community, man. It's a great place to be and hang out and fucking spend some time and learn shit. Do it. Citizenship service guarantees citizenship. Apply for
That's
admin.
from the-
I'm doing my part. Drink water. Brush your teeth. All right. Thank you.
I don't like brushing teeth. All right.
Do
Cool.
the
All right,
thing
is
so
that
the
everything?
community
Should I
stops
close this
screaming
like-
at us. Do,
Alright, should I
do the
close
thing
this like a
before I kick
YouTube
you
one?
out again.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming to community meeting number 11. I am Jamarcus, and I am the only person with a real life banhammer.
All right. Cool. See you guys.
See ya.
Thanks all for coming.